Just a quick glance at these teams. We're going to be seeing dual primals against Rayquaza Groudon. So real interesting teams here, but what's most interesting are the other Pokemon around them. So Aaron is running Rayquaza Groudon, Bronzong, that Venusaur that we've been talking about, Raichu, and Slowbro. One of my favorite Pokemon could be Mega Slowbro, most likely not with the Rayquaza and the Venusaur as well, but a guy can dream. Giovanni will be using the dual primals Kangaskhan, Gengar, Cresselia, and Whimsicott. So Gengar and Whimsicott, some techs that we've seen sort of raising late in the season, and already seeing some variety on these sets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm already so excited just because of the teams, and what better way to kick off a World Championship than a team that features Venusaur, Raichu, Slowbro.
Yeah, half of Aaron's team is from the original set.
I mean, the whole team composition is really cool. He's also using a unique archetype in Rayquaza and Groudon, and that's something that, we've talked about. Like, there are those archetypes that can still be very successful, but it has to be piloted on the right player in the team. And so this is one of the most unique team compositions that we've seen, and what better way to kick off the World Championships. And I'm also really excited. I think just to give some context for both of these players, they're actually both from the United States, from North America. Aaron's actually been playing for a very long time. I believe he's actually been around since 2010, and despite that, he's actually one of the younger players in the field. He's someone who was a junior, a senior, and a master. So he's been playing Pokemon competitively at a very high level for a very long time, but I think he's someone who is looking for a big finish at the World Championships to prove himself in Masters. He's in the Texas local area, I believe, and he's established himself multiple regional top cuts, and obviously has made it all the way here to Worlds, but trying to make a name for himself and prove that he deserves to be in the big name of American players. Giovanni, on the other hand, I think is a little bit newer to the game. He doesn't have 6 years of experience like Aaron does, but he's from the SoCal area, LA, I believe, and I think he's someone who's considered one of those players who have quickly picked up the game in the recent years and has that talent to do well. I think when the SoCal players kind of look at who are players that are rising stars, you can definitely look at him, and he obviously has secured enough championship points to make it to the World Championships. But this is exciting because it's not a really huge star-studded matchup. It's more of two people who are good and considered very good maybe in their respective regions, but now are trying to prove themselves not for their country but for the world as well.
Yeah, and could have very huge breakout performances here in San Francisco. Well, we are ready for our first game of the day. As you can see on your screen, Aaron Grubbs versus Giovanni Costa. Giovanni's team is on the bottom there, so you are looking at that Whimsicott, Gengar, Kangaskhan, Cresselia, Groudon, and Kyogre. Up against Aaron, who's off-screen right now, has the Slowbro, Bronzong, Rayquaza, Groudon, Raichu, and Venusaur. And obviously the first thing that we look at for any of these matchups is how do the restricteds match up. And Rayquaza is a very good matchup against the dual primals, negating both of their weathers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here because Aaron is using that rare combination of Rayquaza and Groudon that we've seen. Actually, that combination did win the Japanese National Championships, but it is a very kind of awkward combination at the same time. It's mainly used for sheer firepower. It does mean that Aaron can maybe use his fire type attacks on Groudon a little bit easier because if you switch into Rayquaza, normally you have to worry about the Kyogre switch in. But Aaron obviously has some very cool Pokemon. I think Slowbro is actually something I'm really looking forward to seeing maybe because Slowbro, if you do have Rayquaza up, can instantly knock out Groudon with a Scald or a water type attack, and so that's something I'm going to be curious about. I think Venusaur actually can make an impact here too. One of the other questions is kind of speed control. What movesets are the Cresselia, the Gengar, the Whimsicott, all of those Pokemon can have speed control. And then on Aaron's end, he's got a Bronzong, which is, typically used with Trick Room. Slowbro is also the Trick Room variant. And so there's so many different modes. Aaron can also go with Groudon, Venusaur, and Venusaur can use that Chlorophyll, which we talked about way earlier, to take advantage and outspeed everything. So I'm really excited for this match because it's some really cool stuff.
All right, well, we are getting it started here in San Francisco. The first match of the day, it will be Raichu and Rayquaza for Aaron, up against Giovanni's Groudon and Kangaskhan. So Raichu looking kind of like the odd man out here amongst three other heavy hitters, but does have that fake out pressure that it can exert onto Groudon or potentially Kangaskhan, depending on its ability and speed. But going to be interesting to see how these players react. Obviously, first turn, first leads of the day for their entire tournament. And I kind of like having the Rayquaza out.
Yeah, Rayquaza is nice. I think there are a lot of mind games right from the start. Raichu is going to be faster than Kangaskhan, so you could potentially fake it out. But Kangaskhan nowadays like to carry the inner focus ability specifically for that. So if you're Kangaskhan, obviously you can just stay in regular Kangaskhan form and fake out the Rayquaza. Like you mentioned, Rayquaza looks really good right now, able to maybe do a lot of damage to either of those Pokemon, depending on the type.
Has some water items or water abilities
type, right. A water type attack could actually one-hit knock out Groudon, so you have to be a little bit scared of that if you're Giovanni. But there's a lot of potential here. Because Raichu and Rayquaza are a little bit more on the frail end, a Kangaskhan Double Edge can definitely knock out Raichu or maybe do a lot of damage to Rayquaza. Groudon right now does threaten Raichu, not too much on the Rayquaza though.
Oh, well, it looks like Aaron's going to go ahead and Mega Evolve his Rayquaza, and I expect to see, well, we may not actually see the Kangaskhan Mega Evolve first turn here. It looks like Rayquaza going to go ahead and set the Delta Stream up instead of that Airlock ability. Going to go ahead and protect, so Kangaskhan not Mega Evolving, wants to be able to eat a Fake Out here from that Raichu if it needs to. Raichu will go for the Fake Out onto Groudon though, so just going to make sure that Groudon can't deal any damage, and the Fake Out coming out from the Kangaskhan into the Protect onto Rayquaza. So not Mega Evolving, probably showing that it's holding that it has that inner focus ability.
Absolutely. I do want to talk about that play because it's a really, interesting one on both players, and I think both players made a nice play there. Aaron got the better end of it. It's rare to see a Fake Out Protect play come out, but by using that Fake Out and that Protect, now the Rayquaza is going to be faster, and that's a big deal. Also, it's a little bit risky. Giovanni did have that potential to go for a Double Edge or a return onto Raichu, instead just opting to Fake Out Rayquaza. So if, that's a really good turn if you're Aaron, and if you have Encore on Raichu, you could actually Encore Kangaskhan right now, so that's something you have to be scared of as well. Aaron taking a little bit of a risk, thinking, okay, he's probably just going to go for Kangaskhan or Fake Out on Kangaskhan, and it works out perfectly as he doesn't take any damage.
Yeah, but does manage to get his Rayquaza Mega Evolved here. Now has a whole lot of offensive pressure against this Groudon and Kangaskhan. Crucially, though, no longer has the Airlock, so the weather will be able to be changed here. Groudon will switch out for Cresselia, though, so no Kyogre just yet. Cresselia will switch in, and Kangaskhan will Mega Evolve finally. Turn 2, one of the latest Mega Evolutions of Kangaskhan. Now we can finally start the World Championships here with Mega Kangaskhan on the field. Rayquaza does go straight for that Dragon Ascent, wants to try and deal the damage quickly and as much as possible. A lot onto Kangaskhan, barely hangs on. Kangaskhan will hang on in the red health there. Rayquaza taking some damage from the Life Orb. A lot of damage. Raichu does go for the Encore. Will Encore the Kangaskhan, so Kangaskhan locked into Fake Out, not going to be able to deal any damage. Of course, Fake Out only works on that first turn after switching in.
Yep.
So Kangaskhan just taking damage for free.
So there was a lot of important information that came out of that turn, but the first thing I want to talk about is that Aaron's first 2 turns have been perfect for him. Cresselia here does give Giovanni a leg up because it's a great Pokemon to deal with Rayquaza, but we saw now that Rayquaza has Life Orb, so it is a little bit more frail. It can't get one-hit knocked out if the weather or if it gets hit by a Ice type attack if Delta Stream isn't up. And now that he's at -1 attack from the Dragon Ascent or -1 defense, Kangaskhan could knock it out, but this Kangaskhan's rendered absolutely useless, and so Aaron gets yet another good turn. He's been playing very, very well. Giovanni not knowing whether the Encore is on Raichu because Raichu can be run in so many different ways. So, in best of 3, it's okay if you're a little bit behind right now from Giovanni's end, but Aaron's been playing really well and he's been utilizing his tricks correctly.
Yep, well, Aaron's going to protect his Rayquaza, switches it out in favor of Bronzong. So Bronzong out once he sees that Cresselia. Kangaskhan will retreat as well for Groudon. So Groudon back out on the field for Giovanni. Aaron trying to make sure that he has something in case that Cresselia wants to go straight for a Trick Room here. Raichu will go for the Volt Tackle, though, into Groudon. No damage. Icy Wind actually coming out. Will connect with both the Raichu and the Bronzong. Drop their speed. So now Groudon in a pretty good position here. Loves staring down that Bronzong and even the Raichu there to deal some damage. But the eject button!
Hello!
Oh, free switches for Aaron. It's a revolving door of Pokemon as Raichu ejects out, and now Aaron gets a free switch in knowing what Giovanni's play is with the Groudon and the Cresselia. Either the Rayquaza or whatever he has out in the back.
Maybe Slowbro.
Possibly Slowbro would be great alongside that Bronzong if they can get up a Trick Room.
Yeah, of course, we haven't seen Aaron's 4th Pokemon. It could be that Groudon if he wants to bring both of his restricted Pokemon, but I do want to talk about the fact that eject button exists, and it's a really cool item. It helps out a lot. We do see Rayquaza come back in here, but one of the cool things about eject button is when you have a Water-type Pokemon on your team and Rayquaza, you can kind of switch in, get hit by an attack, and then the eject button forces you back out. So it allows you to make some creative switches. And I also think that if that eject button didn't exist, then Giovanni would be in a really good position because he'd have Cresselia and Groudon against Bronzong and Raichu, and they have no offensive pressure whatsoever. Like, Giovanni, even though the first couple turns, it wasn't going too well for him, last turn could have been really good, but then the surprise eject button, which, is somewhat rare on Raichu. Raichu itself a rare Pokemon, definitely catching him off guard. He's still not in the worst of positions, but Rayquaza just always such a offensive threat. You really have to be careful if, and Giovanni still doesn't know whether it has water type attacks or not.
Yeah, and gets the Delta Stream back up as well, so protect it from any kind of ice type attack from Cresselia. If Cresselia is only running Icy Wind, Rayquaza's probably not too worried about that.
Yep.
Groudon will switch out for Kyogre, so Kyogre is in the back for Giovanni. Now out on the field, will actually be able to bring the rain here to get rid of the Delta Stream on Rayquaza's side. So both primals for Giovanni decide to bring it, so Kyogre now setting the rain, taking over from the Delta Stream and the Sun. Rayquaza actually going for a Draco Meteor. Mixed Rayquaza here. Draco Meteor onto that Kyogre, going to deal a good amount of damage. Kyogre, though, very specially bulky, only takes about 50% from that. Rayquaza will drop its special attack and take some damage. Bronzong avoids the Icy Wind, but Icy Wind will connect with Rayquaza, the most important part of that. Will deal some good damage back, especially without the Delta Stream, and drop the speed. So potentially, but Bronzong gets the Trick Room up, so we'll have to see which one is faster now.
Yeah, they're gonna
be slower.
Right. I think Rayquaza could actually now outspeed Kyogre and Cresselia because of the Icy Wind. But some good important information there. In a best of 3, it's all about information management. Here we saw that the Rayquaza does carry Draco Meteor, and even with the Kyogre special defense, I mean, it was still able to do over 50%.
Yeah.
And so Draco Meteor is a really strong attack. I think a lot of players underestimate Mega Rayquaza's Draco Meteor because we always see Dragon Extend Extreme Speed, a very physically oriented ones, and so Draco Meteor can definitely chunk out Pokemon, especially like Groudon. And so far, if you're Aaron, you're probably still relatively content, but you do have to watch out a little bit here because there are some potential skill swap mind games if for some reason Kyogre is still able to outspeed Rayquaza under Trick Room here. But I think really solid play here so far, and we're not going to see any switch outs.
Yeah, not going to see any speed guesses here as well, because Rayquaza will go straight for the extreme speed, deals a lot of damage back to the Kyogre. Gyro Ball coming out from the Bronzong will connect with
Target's
Cresselia.
Crest, not Kyogre.
Not trying to get the KO onto Kyogre, just trying to deal a little bit of damage back to Crest. The Ice Beam coming out will be able to pick up the KO onto Rayquaza, so Rayquaza will go down. Giovanni will actually take the first Pokemon of the tournament so far. Cresselia uses Trick Room to reset it. So now the Twisted Dimensions have returned to normal, and the fast Pokemon are fast again.
Yeah, so despite the Icy Wind, Aaron not maybe knowing the speeds, and he didn't want to really risk anything getting guaranteed damage off there with extreme speed. Gyro Ball from Bronzong probably wouldn't have knocked out Kyogre, but
may have done enough to get it into like fake out range with this Raichu, though.
Right, and maybe even with the critical hit. But if you're Giovanni, you're actually pretty content. I think he's setting himself up for basically a Groudon sweep because Bronzong and Raichu have no offensive pressure whatsoever against Groudon, and so despite how well Aaron's been playing this from the beginning, Giovanni has been making some really good plays to get back into it, and I think he realizes, okay, Groudon has a phenomenal matchup, especially if my Cresselia has Gravity. So we don't know the moveset yet, but that was a great play last turn by Giovanni. He's put himself back into this one for sure.
Yeah, and Giovanni is going to retreat. Kyogre wants to get Groudon out on the field as soon as possible. Groudon now back out on the field, of course, loves staring down a Raichu and a Bronzong.
Yeah.
You could not ask for a more perfect Pokemon pair. Skill Swap will come out, though, onto Cresselia, so now that Groudon is levitating as well. So even if Aaron has his own Groudon in the back, it will not be able to beat back the challenge from Giovanni's. So the levitating Groudon, Bronzong will be able to get the Trick Room out here, but of course the Volt Tackle into Groudon dealing no damage whatsoever. And Aaron gets Trick Room up, but can't do anything with it.
Right, unless Bronzong has something like a Hypnosis that could at least stall the Groudon, but Raichu right now really can't do anything. Even Endeavor wouldn't mean very much, and the Trick Room actually helps Giovanni a little bit more because now that Groudon outspeeds. And so, Giovanni has played this really well. He realizes that Groudon is the way to win this one, so he was willing to take a lot of damage in the beginning of the game because he's set himself up, and because Aaron didn't bring a Slowbro, there's no way to potentially one-hit knock out that Groudon. Now that Groudon's going to be really hard to even touch in general due to the fact that it has that Levitate, which you mentioned, and we do see Groudon switching here, but this is going to be really risky. There's a good chance that Giovanni might just go for like a Precipice Blades.
Yeah, well, has to make an aggressive move here to try and get some of the momentum back. So switching in that Groudon here. Primal Groudon. Feint actually comes out from Raichu. Raichu just trying to get a little bit of damage dealt back. Eruption coming out from Giovanni's Groudon will be dealing a lot of damage back. Not very effective on Groudon. Will be able to pick up the KO onto Raichu, though. So Raichu will go down. Cresselia resetting the Trick Room once again. So, you know, Giovanni really doesn't want to be playing under Trick Room here, and Aaron keeps trying to get himself in a good position under Trick Room, but not able to get the momentum at the right time.
Yeah, and I think if you're Giovanni, that's the safest play you can make possible, because if Bronzong Raichu stay and you just pick up a double knockout and you reverse Trick Room, otherwise he's forced to switch out and take a knockout. So Giovanni played perfectly and set himself into a position, opting not to Precipice Blades, knowing, you know, we do see that it does have this special type of weapon, which does so much damage. Like, I mean, it still did like 1/3 to Groudon, which resists it.
Yeah.
So Aaron here is going to forfeit. And I thought, you know, even though Aaron played so well those first couple of turns, he, you know, because of the nature of the team matchup, he didn't prepare well enough for the end game on Giovanni's end, and that was so well executed at the end by Giovanni.
Well, this is just something we see a lot with Trick Room teams in particular, and even some of the Rayquaza teams. If you are off by like half a turn on your timings, like you have Trick Room set up, but you need one more Pokemon out there to actually deal damage and threaten, then you risk giving up all of the momentum you may have gained.
Right.
And that's what happened multiple times to Aaron during this game against Giovanni.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Aaron wants to win this set, he's going to have to, you know, really deal with that Groudon a lot better. I think Slowbro actually could be a Pokemon that, you know, is well equipped to deal with that.
Yeah, probably better than Bronzong is.
Absolutely, yeah. Even if it doesn't have Trick Room, you know, it's still able to at least hit hard for Skull. You have to threaten the Groudon one-hit knockout, basically. And with Aaron's team composition, because he let Rayquaza faint so early on, because Giovanni made such a good switch in from that Groudon to Kyogre, and because Kyogre was able to knock out Rayquaza, then Giovanni, once he eliminated the biggest threat to Groudon, was able to go from there. And so that was, you know, Aaron played perfectly, I could say, the first 2 or 3 turns, but even if you're getting small advantages, it's those big plays that really matter, and Giovanni was able to really conserve the Groudon for the late game.
It really feels like he just misjudged his damage calcs when he, with the Draco Meteor onto Kyogre plus the extreme speed, maybe thought that would be enough to take down the Kyogre, but just came a little bit short.
Yeah, and you imagine, you know, if that does pick up the knockout, since Cresselia actually reset the Trick Room, then your Rayquaza is still staying at a healthy HP, or not healthy, but it's still around.
Right.
And so I think Aaron's adjustment here is really, you know, okay, I need to deal with Groudon a lot better, and Raichu and Bronzong, they are cool support Pokemon, but they didn't do very much for me. Both of them actually being more dead weight than anything, so I think Aaron does should change up his strategy. Giovanni, though, you know, revealing his Icy Wind and Trick Room, and that Trick Room is a way to revert opposing Trick Rooms. But here's the Slowbro.
Yeah, Slowbro out on the field. Aaron has decided to make some adjustments. We'll go with the Rayquaza and the Slowbro. The Airlock plus Slowbro water typing will be able to threaten this Groudon now, a key factor that was missing during that last game. So Giovanni will stick with Groudon and the Kangaskhan leads, but now facing down Slowbro instead of Raichu, which I totally agree with you. I think that completely changes this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about how the adjustments that we wanted to see Aaron make, and I think Slowbro is basically probably the key in this. But this isn't still, you know, the best of positions in the sense that, you know, there is a free fake out here. But I think if I'm Aaron, I'm a lot more content, I should say, because even with fake out, like Groudon doesn't do very much damage against Rayquaza or Slowbro, and because of that Airlock fire type of damage is also reduced. We don't know whether this Groudon is fully special or whether it's a mixed variant with Precipice Blades, but if anything, if you're Giovanni, you have to be a little bit more careful now because there are 2 offensive threats staring down as opposed to 1 plus a support Pokemon. Slowbro is a support Pokemon in its own sense that it can set up Trick Room, but
Groudon's very weak to water.
Yeah, exactly. A much better lead matchup here, but no switch outs.
No switches. Kangaskhan is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve this time, not having to worry about fake out pressure on Aaron's side. So Giovanni going right for the Mega Evolution. Will fake out. No protects on Aaron's side. Fake out's the Slowbro actually, so Slowbro will take that fake out damage. Hit twice. Rayquaza not Mega Evolving, just going straight for the Draco Meteor onto Groudon. So will connect with the Groudon, will deal some good damage back.
Oh, it's a crit!
Damage, it's a crit! And Aaron picks up his first Pokemon of the tournament with that critical hit Draco Meteor. And ooh, I just got flashbacks to Dragon Gym Draco Meteors in 2010 with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting decisions there. I think, first of all, Giovanni opting not to switch. Aaron, well, actually, yeah, his lead matchup was really smart. At first, I was like, oh, maybe it's not the best because there's fake out pressure, but then I realized, like, Groudon still doesn't do very much. And Kangaskhan, if it fakes out, can't do very much damage. Rayquaza opting not to Mega Evolve there, perhaps because there's a Mega Evolution in the back, or just to conserve the weather so you have Airlock up consistently. And you know, it does get that critical hit, does eliminate Groudon, and this is already so different from the last game. Last game, Groudon was able to seal up the game at the very end, and now, you know, the biggest threat's gone. And no Mega Evolution once again, just straight attacks coming out.
Yeah, just A lot of attacks. Kangaskhan with the double edge onto Rayquaza.
Oh, it hangs on!
Does not pick up the KO. 10 hit points left on that Rayquaza. Will be able to get the Dragon Ascent right back. Survives just long enough to blow up Kangaskhan with that Dragon Ascent, and it's going to fall to its own Life Orb here, but it took out Groudon and Mega Kangaskhan, and that's what you want out of your restricted Pokemon.
And it didn't even Mega Evolve.
Didn't even Mega Evolve, so, you know, maybe that Mega Slowbro could still come out.
Yeah. Wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking, of course, but Slowbro will scald the Cresselia, dealing a little bit of damage. Does not pick up the burn here, crucially, so no chip damage onto that Cresselia. Trick Room will be set up. But I don't think Slowbro minds that, and depending on what Aaron has in the back, he might not either.
Right, I mean, this is a case where Aaron has gotten the better play, but his team is now well-equipped enough, and we see Venusaur come in. Oh, this is such a good position right now.
This is what Aaron needed to be doing from game one.
Yeah.
Bring the Slowbro and the Venusaur.
And, you know, sometimes it takes that loss to help you realize what adjustments you need to make. You know, even without the critical hit, I'm not sure if Giovanni would have been in the best of positions. It would have come down to whether Groudon had a surprise attack or, you know, what his moveset is.
Yeah.
But I actually don't think that crit was the end of the world. But if anything, you know, if you're Aaron, you're really happy about that because it means, okay, now I don't have to deal with the biggest threat. And Venusaur and Slowbro staring down Cress and Kyogre, pretty good position, especially if that's Mega Venusaur with thick fat.
Yeah. All right, well, Venusaur out on the field now. Cresselia, we haven't seen any offensive power out of it, just the Icy Wind, and that's in Trick Room now. That's just going to be making your opponent faster. Kyogre can use Ice Beam or something here, but otherwise you're just looking at Ice type, Water type, and possibly a Thunder, which could take out the Slowbro, but can't really deal with the Venusaur very well, as we do see Venusaur will Mega Evolve, so it's going to get that thick fat ability and be able to protect itself from the Ice type attacks of Kyogre. Mega Venusaur now on the field. Slowbro, the fastest thing in Trick Room, will get the Scald, now boosted by the rain. Still not dealing that much damage on Cresselia, but does get the burn this time. Kyogre does show Thunder, so we'll be able to connect with Slowbro. Most likely pick up the KO onto Slowbro with that Thunder. Yep, easy KO there. Slowbro will go down. And Venusaur now out on the field with the Grass Knot onto Kyogre. Kyogre is a big threat, but Grass Knot loves damaging big threats. Just about 75% of the health there, as Cresselia now realizes the mistake it made setting Trick Room, has to go back and reset everything.
Yeah, so, I mean, Mega Venusaur itself is looking really
and shows
strong
Citrus
right
Berry.
Yep, so a lot of important information there. Thunder on Kyogre is also a big deal because it does mean that Giovanni has a way to, we saw just pick up the one-hit knockout onto that Slowbro. So, you know, now in terms of making adjustments for a potential Game 3, you can definitely be considering that. And I think if you're Aaron, you're really content about your position. I've actually been thinking a little bit about that first turn still, and I could see maybe what Giovanni was going for, trying to, maybe going for an Eruption just to get some chip damage off onto Rayquaza to maybe put it in double-edge KO range, because Rayquaza didn't use the Mega Evolve, which I thought, you know, it could make sense, but you don't have to worry too much about the weather since Groudon's already in. You don't have to worry about Kyogre switching in. So, you know, maybe that critical hit played a little bit more of a factor, but, you know, you can't really let that get to you. You have to just play from there. And I thought Aaron also just made very good adjustments. We see Venusaur and Slowbro instead of Bronze on Raichu, and that's exactly what I think Aaron needed to do to claw back into this set.
Yeah, what we saw this game was Aaron recognizing that he just needed to take out the Groudon first.
Yep.
And then the rest of the Pokemon in the back could deal with Kyogre pretty easily.
Yep.
So Groudon now out on the field, will protect itself. Icy Wind from Cresselia will connect with the Mega Venusaur, but only 2 Pokemon for Giovanni, and now we have the Sun up for Aaron. That Kyogre will not be able to use any of its water type attacks, which leaves it only Thunder or potentially an Ice type attack, and Groudon happy to take those.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cresselia always has the potential to skill swap here, but I think if you're Aaron, your Venusaur should be able to carry you through this game at this point. Unless Cresselia has Psychic, but the thing is, Venusaur also does get access to Leech Seed, and it's one of the reasons why Venusaur is actually very solid in 2015 in kind of the mid-meta, because you could kind of Leech Seed everything. We do see skill swap come out here.
Alright, so there will be a skill swap to set the rain back up. Potentially get a KO onto that Groudon with a water type attack from the Kyogre. Kyogre though does go just for an Ice Beam. Ice Beam onto Venusaur, whose thick fat will protect it very
heavily. Oh, it gets the freeze! What does Groudon do?
Venusaur is frozen solid. Venusaur will not be able to attack. Groudon goes for the Precipice Blades. It does not, because the Kyogre levitates now. Will be able to connect with Cresselia. Needs to deal a lot of damage to that Cresselia. Not enough. Cresselia still up, takes the burn, and Venusaur is frozen. and Kyogre is levitating, and Rain is on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Everything went wrong.
Right, I was like, oh, he'll hit press his blades, it's fine. But it's like, wait, no, he has levitate. So Giovanni realized this is the only play I can go for, and it makes sense. If Venusaur unthaws, you know, it's still game over. But that freeze giving Giovanni the chance to win this one and actually putting himself in a very good position. Oh, and he skill swaps the Thick Fat away.
Yeah, no Thick Fat for Cresselia, actually taking the Thick Fat for itself. Gets the Primordial Sea so that Venusaur will be taking as much damage as possible. Venusaur now setting the rain for Groudon. Kyogre will be able to get the Ice Beam off now onto that Venusaur. Is it going to be enough? Is it enough? It does! Venusaur goes down to the Ice Beam without Thick Fat anymore. So now Groudon, the rain is over though. The rain is gone, so Groudon may be able to get a Fire-type attack off onto the Kyogre.
Yeah, so Groudon there
An
actually...
Overheat or a Fire Punch, maybe?
Oh, yeah, you know, if it has any Fire-type attacks, it can't, but it has to survive a Water-type attack from Kyogre, and it's going to be close. I think this Water Spell might still be able to pick up the knockout.
This water
Doesn't
spell
knock it out!
Target, but not...
It does!
Groudon will go down, and Giovanni just taking that one back from the Abyss. With that freeze onto Venusaur, with that skill swap, taking away the Thick Fat, able to take that away, and Giovanni wins the set 2-0.
I mean, that's why you never want to count yourself out, right?
Yeah.
Even I was like, okay, it seems like it's over, but you had that 10% chance with freeze, and he actually made a really good play too. Like, Aaron could have...
See it now. So we're going to jump into our game, and we've got a team from Cody Bernheisel, who's going to have Xerneas, Rayquaza, Scrafty, Smeargle, Amoonguss, and Thundurus, and he's playing against Koki Sakurai, who's going to have Xerneas, Salamence, Groudon, Bronzong, Kangaskhan, and Smeargle. So we've got that Scrafty that we mentioned before, but we've got a very typical Japanese-style team here from Koki.
Yeah, we saw in Japan Nationals, their top 8 was filled with these Groudon, Xerneas, kind of Trick Room teams utilizing Bronzong, and we see it again here, a very standard team. We saw it dominate US Nationals, dominate Japan Nationals, maybe it'll even dominate this weekend. It's certainly a reliable core, but everybody's going into this World Championship hopefully prepared to counter it, because that should be the most common team. So you'd like to think here that, you know, we're going to see answers to this kind of core of Pokemon in the Groudon, in the Xerneas, and in that Trick Room.
Yeah, so once again, guys, you can see Cody Bernheisel's team on your screen. Scrafty, Smeargle, Rayquaza, Amoonguss, Xerneas, and Thundurus. And off-screen, Koki Sakurai's team, which is going to be Xerneas, Salamence, Groudon, Bronzong, Kang, and Smeargle. If you're Koki going into this match, what do you think is the safest bet?
I think you have to bring Xerneas this game. When you see the Rayquaza, you see the Scrafty, and even the opposing Xerneas, depending on how Koki decided to train his Xerneas, if it's faster than Cody's Xerneas, you can get the Geomancy up before that Xerneas gets to move. That means you get that special defense boost to take even less damage from the opposing Xerneas, and you kind of win that mirror match if you're the faster Xerneas. It does have to worry a little bit about Amoonguss, because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage to it, and it does fear sleep, but at the same time, Amoonguss can't really do a whole lot of damage to it. It can clear Smog away those boosts, so that's something you do have to worry about. But again, Koki has options to deal with all this in the Groudon. Groudon's great against Amoonguss, great against Thundurus if Rayquaza isn't also in, because Thundurus is known to carry Hidden Power Water, especially when paired with Rayquaza. So that's something Koki has to watch out for, and I'm sure he expects it.
I think one of the things as well, you mentioned about which team is going to be faster. Koki's got that Trick Room option in his Bronzong. Cody doesn't actually have a form of speed control as strong as a Trick Room or a Tailwind. It looks like he might be relying a little bit more on using Thunder Wave.
Yep, and we see the battle get underway. Here we've got Scrafty, Rayquaza as a lead
from Cody Bernheisel. And we've got Koki Sakurai, who's going to be using Smeargle, Xerneas, which is a combination that we saw a lot throughout the US Nationals and also through European Nationals as well.
And this is a great spot for Koki to be in here, because Xerneas threatens KOs on both of these two Pokemon. Now, of course, Scrafty, you have to expect a fake out there, but it's something you can just play around. You expect Cody to go for the fake out on the Xerneas, and then maybe Rayquaza go for an attack on Smeargle. But if Smeargle has Focus Sash, it can kind of take that attack and go for a Dark Void. Maybe you see Rayquaza switch out, potentially, but then you risk giving Smeargle a free turn. You could even see a prediction here from Cody and just double target down that Smeargle. But then if Xerneas, if Koki predicts that, it can just get a double knockout in exchange for just losing Smeargle.
This is the thing, this lead is so strong from Koki, it kind of puts Cody on the back foot. He might want to remove the Rayquaza from the field and try and bring out the Thundurus. And if the Thundurus comes into the field, he can drop a Thunder Wave onto the Xerneas, but if it's already got the Geomancy up, he could be in big trouble.
Yep.
So we see Mega Rayquaza coming out onto the field there. We've got Rayquaza Mega Evolving. It's going to bring out the strong winds here. And we're going to see what happens now. Koki is going to be using a Fake Out onto the Mega Rayquaza there. And we're going to see Scrafty's also going to drop a Fake Out onto the Smeargle. So what is Xerneas going to do? Are we going to see a big Geomancy here, Ray?
And we see that Scrafty has Life Orb, actually, so that's really interesting. But Koki totally winning that first turn. Oh, look how little damage that did.
I think we might be seeing an Assault Vest
Yep,
Rayquaza here,
so
and there's
too.
a Moody Boost. What do we think?
Looks like accuracy rose for Smeargle, so Dark Void could be hitting pretty, you know, it's definitely something to watch out for. Now that you know it's faster than Scrafty, not only is that good knowledge for games 2 and 3, it's going to be important for this game here.
So much information given up in this first turn, and it looks like Koki actually probably got the most out of it. We've got that Assault Vest on the Rayquaza there, and we've also got the Life Orb on the Scrafty, which is not an item that you see a lot.
No, because Scrafty normally more of a supportive Pokemon trained to be very bulky so that it can take advantage of things like Fake Out, reusing Intimidate by switching in and out, and of course Super Fang, which doesn't rely on your attack stat at all. It just always does 50%, so not something we see too much.
And there goes the Scrafty, as you say, Ray, probably saving it in the back for later so he can get a big Intimidate off. And in comes his own Xerneas, Cody bringing the Xerneas there. And so we're going to have to see how Koki's going to be able to react to this. We've got the Fairy Oil coming out for Xerneas on his side of the field. And here we go, the Follow Me, going to detract attention away from his restricted legendary Pokemon. And the Rayquaza on Koki's side of the field, on Cody's side of the field is now going to launch a big Dragon Ascent. I love this animation so much. It's going to launch directly down to that Smeargle. It's going to pick up the knockout. So once again, Smeargle has been very pivotal in protecting Xerneas and allowing it to possibly get up a big boost.
It has the Fake Out turn 1, and now this Follow Me. Xerneas is in prime position to just sweep this game.
Oh, and there's a Dazzling Gleam coming out from Xerneas there. It's going to pick up the knockout onto Rayquaza and leave Xerneas with just under half HP. So Koki not even wanting to go for that Geomancy option yet, being very aggressive here.
No, we saw it. He just wanted to pick up that KO on Rayquaza. I like that move because you have to imagine he has Groudon in the back. I think he was trying to be a little bit safer. He does have to still worry about the Amoonguss potential with the Clear Smog, maybe even a red card. So there are things to worry about. I like that move of just straight up going for the Dazzling Gleam, though.
Yeah, it made sure that the Xerneas on Cody's side of the field isn't going to be at full HP, so it means it's easier for his restricted legendary Pokemon to come in and deal with that. If Koki decides to bring his Kangaskhan in, it could do well against his Xerneas as well.
Yep, and of course it was a Scrafty in too, but you know, you can't imagine Scrafty stays in against that, so regardless of what came in, just getting a little bit of damage on it worked, and he got the critical hit, so he did get a whole bunch of damage on that Xerneas. So.
Yeah, and so here we see the Kangaskhan has hit the field for Koki Sakurai, and for Cody we've got that Amoonguss, and Kangaskhan and Amoonguss had a love-hate relationship. A lot of the time in VGC 15 last year, we saw them paired together so that Kangaskhan could get big power-up punches off. But now that it's, and also with the Rocky Helmet, was doing a lot of damage from the opposite side of the field. But now we can see that Kangaskhan can put fake-out pressure onto Cody's side of the field, and Amoonguss can redirect the attacks away so that Xerneas can get a boost.
Yeah, but this is just so tough because of how low Xerneas already is, and because Koki has the fake-out pressure from Kangaskhan, so that'll move before a Rage Powder. And then, of course, his own Xerneas has Dazzling Gleam, so he doesn't even have to worry about the Rage Powder.
And here we go, we're going to see Kangaskhan Mega Evolving now. So are we going to see a Fake Out going into Cody's side of the field, or are we going to see some big damage coming out from that Kangaskhan? We're going to see Xerneas on Cody's side of the field, going to get a Protect, doesn't want to take a Fake Out or any sort of damage from the Kangaskhan, wants to survive for one more turn. And we're going to see the Fake Out going onto the Amoonguss there. It's going to hit twice due to Mega Kangaskhan's Parental Bond ability. And then it's actually going to activate, is that a red card?
That's a red card.
There we go, so Kangaskhan is going to be forced back onto the bench for Koki Sakurai, and he's going to be bringing in his Primal Groudon, which is
not a good trade.
Well, actually, I think it's a great trade for Koki.
Yeah,
but
great trade for Koki, not for Cody, though.
Cody's not going to be having fun seeing that Pokemon come in. So we've got the Primal Groudon now hitting the field. Desolate Land will be set up, and without the Mega Rayquaza on Cody's side of the field, Groudon's in a great spot.
There's just no answer to this for what Cody has remaining. Now the Geomancy gets set up, so wow.
So a big swing in momentum for Koki Sakurai here.
Yeah, because a Dazzling Gleam can take out the Xerneas, Rage Powder can't redirect that, and Groudon can easily take out Amoonguss, and all that's in the back is a Scrafty, and that just is no match for this boosted Xerneas and even the Groudon, so...
Yeah, and Amoonguss has such a different role in this metagame than it does from previous years, because the Rage Powder, again, as you said, doesn't redirect all these big spread attacks that these legendary Pokemon are known for. So it does have a resist against Xerneas, and that's probably why Cody would want to use it.
Yep.
But in the position he's in, it's not doing anything at all.
No, right now there's nothing it can do, but that was good knowledge for Koki actually finding out that it has red card, so he is going to have to watch out if in future games he gets his Xerneas set up, try and avoid getting red carded out by the Amoonguss. So a lot of knowledge actually. I'd say this match, not only is Koki going to win, but I'd say he got the advantage when it comes to the knowledge gain. I think he actually gained more knowledge about Cody's team that matters than Cody really gained about his team. So I think Koki, he's very happy winning this game, and he's very confident going into games 2, and then maybe even a game 3.
So there's that Protect coming out from the Xerneas on Koki's side of the field, and a matching boost coming out from Cody Bernheisel, and he's going to see the special attack raised by 2 stages, special defense raised by 2 stages, and speed. The Geomancy move is just so powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
So we've got the 2 Geomancy boosted Xerneas on the opposite side of the field. We've got a Moonblast coming out onto the protected Xerneas. Oh, sorry, no, not at all, sorry. We've got the big Eruption coming out onto the Amoonguss, which is going to pick up the knockout. Xerneas is going to survive with a sliver of health, and Scrafty's going to come back in, but it's a difficult position for Cody.
Yeah, there's not really a way to come back from this. I'm curious, though, why Koki let Cody set up the Geomancy there with his Xerneas. I don't think he had anything to fear. He could have just attacked. So I'm not sure why he didn't, but he's still in a great spot to win this game.
He is. So I think the main thing for Cody now is to try and get as much information as he can. He's already seen that this Groudon has access to the special move Eruption, so he'll try and find out if Koki's Groudon is fully specially invested with lots of special moves, or maybe it's a mixed variant.
Yep, that's definitely something I don't expect Koki to give up here.
Yeah.
Especially now that he's intimidated, and Eruption will do plenty of damage. Not only does he want to keep the knowledge from getting over to Cody, Eruption is just simply the best move right now, so...
Yep, so we've got 2 boosted Xerneas on the field, but one is in much better positions. It looks like we're going to go to a game 2 very shortly. So will Cody see this one out? Actually launch a fake out onto the Xerneas there, which is not going to be able to move this turn at all, taking a little bit of life orb damage there on the Scrafty. The opposing Xerneas is going to launch a Moonblast onto Koki's Xerneas. How much will that do? It does a fair amount of damage. Obviously, with the Geomancy boost, its special defense is raised, and a big Eruption coming out from Koki's Groudon, which is going to pick up the knockout on both Pokemon. But Cody now knows how much his boosted Xerneas does against Koki's boosted Xerneas.
Yep, and he's got an idea for the speeds of each, so great knowledge for Koki going into Game 2. I think he's got all the knowledge he needs to kind of make this a quick series. He played great in Game 1. You can't understate that enough, because turn 1, he led perfectly against Cody's leads, and then, it's kind of easy to kind of think as a spectator that, yeah, he's in a great spot turn 1, so he's just going to win the game. But no, there were a lot of options Cody could have done to try and pull himself out of that bad matchup, which he did try and do. It's just Koki just made the best move possible each turn at the very beginning, and there was just no answer from Cody simply because, just how powerful Koki's team was and how he led.
It felt like there were 2 key momentum points, right? It felt like the lead was very strongly in Koki's favor, and then it felt like when Cody brought in that Amoonguss and the red card activated, it kind of just sealed the deal. When Groudon hit the field for free, it was impressive. Like, Xerneas protected itself, Amoonguss came in, the red card activated on the Kangaskhan, and then Groudon was in the perfect position.
Yeah, that combination of Groudon and a boosted Xerneas, there's almost no answer to it just because of how well they cover each other. And I'm not really sure, if I'm Cody, what I want to do here to kind of change things up. I think I have to look towards either Smeargle or Thundurus, if not both. I'm really not sure Scrafty is the Pokemon for this matchup. I know it's good, it's slow, so it's good in Trick Room. It's good against the Bronzong. It's not bulky. We saw the Life Orb, so we can't imagine it's that bulky. Intimidate's nice against Groudon, but we saw it has Eruption. I really don't think Scrafty is a good idea to bring going into Game 2. I think that's one of the switches that Cody needs to make. I think he needs to swap out the Scrafty, either for the Smeargle or for the Thundurus. I don't know. It's tough. He's got I see his win condition as this Xerneas here. Using Rayquaza in combination, whether it's with Thundurus or even if it's by itself, if it has a water move, to take out the Groudon and then just use Xerneas to sweep. It's just going to be so tough because Koki does have a Bronzong.
He's got that Trick Room option, which is loitering in the back.
Yeah, it's always risky to set up Trick Room, though, against Amoonguss and against Smeargle, so I'm not sure he even needs Trick Room, especially after he saw how his Xerneas and Groudon compare in speed to Cody's Pokemon. I think he's perfectly comfortable not using Trick Room. Of course, if he gets paralyzed from the Thundurus, if Cody makes that adjustment, then he does have the Trick Room option. But I just think Koki's team has everything to cover what Cody might do and be able to emerge victorious.
Well, let's see how this second game in round 1 Swiss here at the World Championships live in San Francisco is going to go. Koki Sakurai mixing things up. He's bringing the Kangaskhan and Xerneas combination. And same from Cody, a bit of a switch out here. Thundurus and Xerneas on his side of the field. So the adjustment for Thundurus there, probably looking to taunt or Thunder Wave onto that Xerneas.
Yeah, I like the adjustment here, bringing Thundurus. I'm curious how it was trained and what kind of item it has, because we've seen Focus Sash Thundurus, which are trained almost entirely in speed and special attack. That could be knocked out by Kangaskhan in one hit because of the parental bond bypassing the Focus Sash. But there's also a chance it's a bulky Thundurus with a Citrus Berry where Kangaskhan won't be able to knock it out in one hit. So I think that will change how Cody plays his matchup based on what his Thundurus is using as an item, how it's trained, and then like you said, whether it wants to go for a taunt on the Xerneas or just spread paralysis here.
Well, Koki obviously fearing the idea of a paralysis here, so he's going to bring in his Groudon, which is going to set up the Desolate Land ability, but more importantly, has that immunity to electric type attacks, which mean Thunder Wave won't affect it.
Yeah, so it's great against Xerneas and Groudon, at least, or sorry, it's great against Xerneas and Thundurus, at least for now. There is a chance that Rayquaza comes in and Hidden Power Water comes in, but I'm really curious to see what this Kangaskhan does.
Yep, so we're going to get the Mega Evolution coming out here. Kangaskhan going to be releasing the baby from the pouch and going to get that Parental Bond ability, going to attack twice. The second attack obviously doing a little bit less damage, but still a great advantage to have. And we're going to see the Fake Out coming out onto the Xerneas here. What is the Thundurus on Cody's side of the field going to do? That is going to be a Thunder Wave onto the Kangaskhan there, so a good read from Cody. Didn't want to fall into the trap of getting that hitting the Xerneas slot with a Thunder Wave.
Yeah, great Thunder Wave there. You had to imagine that Groudon would be coming in, and he guessed correctly which slot. So very well played by Cody there. I'm interested because Koki played that kind of safe. He went for the Fake Out on Xerneas, didn't want it to get the Geomancy up, so I can understand that. It's always scary letting a Xerneas get set up on turn 1.
Yeah.
But this Thundurus could prove to be a problem. So maybe targeting a Double Edge on it last turn, you know, maybe that was an option to try and knock it out. And
yep.
if you do see it's bulky and has Citrus Berry, then in Game 3 you have the knowledge there.
I mean,
but even right now, you can still keep it in and go for a Double Edge. You just have to worry about being fully paralyzed. And of course, you have to worry about Xerneas switching in for Rayquaza and the Thundurus going for HP Water.
Well,
Hidden
here
Power
we
Water.
go. So Rai Rizo might have just called out what's going to happen directly in this turn. We've got the Rayquaza coming in, which is going to activate Airlock, which means Desolate Land's ability to soak up water-type attacks isn't going to be able to happen. There's a Hidden Power from the Thundurus onto the Groudon, which survives with a lot of HP there. 77 out of it is just under a sliver of health, and there goes the Eruption. Going to do a big bit of damage to Thundurus, a bit of a chunk there. Rayquaza not going to be taking that much damage at all, and a big Double Edge coming onto that slot from Kangaskhan. Oh! And Rayquaza survives with just a sliver of health.
Yeah, barely not enough to take out the Rayquaza, but we see how bulky Thundurus probably is because its Hidden Power did not do a whole lot of damage to that Groudon.
No, so it looks like Cody's team is built with bulk in mind. You've got what looks like an Assault Vest Rayquaza here, which just didn't take anything from that Eruption at all. Obviously, Eruption is a HP-based attack, so when Groudon's HP is a little bit low, it doesn't do that much damage, but it just took it so well.
Yeah, and of course the sun's not up because of the airlock, so that helps as well. But I think that Koki does get the knowledge here. He has to imagine Thundurus is bulky because of how little damage that did. So even though he didn't get to attack it really, he might not be able to tell based on that Eruption damage just how bulky the Thundurus is. But how much damage Thundurus did to Groudon, I think has to tell him that Thundurus is probably bulky, not that offensive.
So we're going to see another Mega Evolution coming out here. Mega Rayquaza will hit the field once again, and so even with that airlock ability, he's thought, no, I want to put the weather in my control. We're going to see the Delta Stream active now, which is going to reduce Rayquaza's reduce his super effective damage, but we're going to see also the HP water coming out onto the Groudon with a critical hit. It's going to pick up the KO there, so that's one restricted legendary down for Koki Sakurai. And here comes a Dragon Ascent, which is going to come out onto that Kangaskhan slot, so really dealing a lot of damage from Cody's side of the field. It's going to pick up the KO too, so a really great turn there for Cody.
Oh, great turn for Cody. Double knockout, didn't lose anything because Koki didn't get a chance to attack. I don't know, Sucker Punch, I'm sure he was fearing an extreme speed, which would have made Sucker Punch useless and just fail. But when you're at a point where you would get one-hit KO'd by the Rayquaza, I think that's something you have to go for at least.
So we saw there that 2 Pokemon have left the field for Koki's side of the field. He's only got 2 Pokemon left now, but what a pairing to bring out. Smeargle and Xerneas, always a threat.
Certainly still winnable for Koki here because Smeargle can fake out, and that would actually probably knock out the Rayquaza here, but he does risk Xerneas getting paralyzed, so I don't know if he wants to do that. He's also got Follow Me ability in case he wants to redirect that Rayquaza's attack and then redirect the Thunder Wave from Thundurus, since that Thunder Wave would move before Rayquaza's attack. He could also try and predict something, maybe go for a fake out on Thundurus. Maybe he feels like at this point he's got to try something like that, something a little riskier. Let Rayquaza get an attack on Xerneas, get the Geomancy up, and then the following turn go for a Follow Me, and then just Dazzling Gleam both Thundurus and Rayquaza.
Well, Koki's actually going to be protecting his Xerneas here. A Taunt going to come out onto that Smeargle. What item are we going to see here? We're going to see the Mental Herb item there, so the Taunt won't affect Smeargle. Rayquaza is going to attack into the Protect on Xerneas, and Koki's very happy with that play, and here comes the Dark Void. Which Pokemon are going to be put to sleep right now? We're going to see Sleep coming out on Rayquaza. Is it going to pick up the Sleep on Thundurus as well? It is. Both Pokemon on Cody's
what a
side
turning
of the field.
point.
This is why Smeargle is so dangerous. We've got the Moody Boost coming out here. We're going to see...
Looks like just a pointless boost for attack there for Smeargle, so not really going to matter too much. Yeah, but at this point, I don't know how important that is because both Rayquaza and Thundurus are asleep. Xerneas is going to be able to get the Geomancy up, and boy, Koki could actually take this game here from this point.
Yes, he could. So we've got the Smeargle with a slight speed drop here. It really just depends on how Cody will be able to deal with the Pokemon he's got in the back. But with this lead, this momentum swing that Koki's managed to get, with that free switch into both Smeargle and Xerneas alongside each other, he's in such a great position.
Yeah, that Mental Herb really proving useful for Smeargle there, being able to fire off a Dark Void despite getting taunted.
So you can see that both Thundurus and Mega Rayquaza have taken their first turn of sleep here, and Koki's just going to play it safe, get that boost up while he still can, and make sure that he's ready for the later game.
Yep, so that turn, Rayquaza and Thundurus were guaranteed to stay asleep. So this following turn, this upcoming turn, they do have a chance to wake up. It's not super likely, but it's a possibility. So I'm curious to see if Koki decides to go for a Follow Me here to prevent a potential wake up.
It looked like Smeargle went for the Dark Void once again there.
Yeah, we see some more useless boosts. That looked like a special attack boost and then an attack drop. So again, Smeargle, I don't even know if it will really do anything other than Follow Me for the rest of this game. Of course, it depends what else is paired with Xerneas in the back for Cody. So these boosts being irrelevant could matter.
It looked like there was an extreme speed trying to come out from the Mega Rayquaza on Cody's side of the field. Here goes the Follow Me from Smeargle. Or it might have been a Protect, actually. But we've got the Thundurus there. He's going to be asleep as well. So both Pokemon on Cody's side of the field remaining asleep. And we're going to see the big Dazzling Gleam coming out from Koki Sakurai here. It's going to pick up both knockouts there. So once again, we've seen Cody's side of the field being cleared. He's got a free switch into the Pokemon in the back, but he's facing off against such a strong position.
Yep, and just in case Amoonguss is in the back, Red Card won't actually do anything because this Xerneas is the last one out. So we see an accuracy rise and another attack drop. It's, again, nothing too important. Accuracy rise could matter.
But with the speed drop that Smeargle's already had, I don't think Dark Void is going to be particularly helpful there.
Now that you see the Amoonguss, it could potentially be because Smeargle will be faster than it, even despite the speed drop from earlier.
So do you see Koki protecting his Xerneas here and trying to get the Dark Void off of his Smeargle, or just launching attacks?
No, I don't. I just launch attacks because of the accuracy boost to Smeargle, Dark Void won't miss, and even though it got the speed drop, it'll still be faster than Amoonguss. And I have to imagine, since Koki went with the Mental Herb rather than a Focus Sash, it has to be trained for Xerneas not to be able to knock it out with a Moonblast. So I think if you're Koki, you let it take that attack, if it even decides to target the Smeargle with it, and then go for the Dark Void and attack with your Xerneas.
Ooh, there's a big Moonblast coming out. It's going to pick up the KO onto the Xerneas, which had a little bit of health taken away from the Kangaskhan, but so much damage there. There's the Dark Void. Smeargle outspeeding Amoonguss. It's going to be put to sleep, and that has to be game.
Yep, that's game. Amoonguss won't be able to take down the Smeargle and the Xerneas. So Koki Sakurai taking it 2-0.
Really strong performance there coming out from Koki, and he's going to progress through to the second round of Swiss here at the World Championships live in San Francisco. And Cody taking his first loss in his first round, but it's not over for him.
No, he can afford 2 match losses, so he did go up against a very good Japanese player in round 1, so even though he's got to be feeling bad about losing, he has to feel like, well, I lost to somebody really good. He's still got to believe in himself. He can't let this loss get to him. He's just got to keep playing, and, you know, he knows he can advance still.
Oh, and the Amoonguss is going to wake up here. So taking a Moonblast there, it's going to drop a Spore onto the Smeargle, which is going to be put to sleep. Maybe Cody is just looking to get as much information as he can about the build of Koki's team in case he has to play him further on in the competition.
Yeah, you never know in case both these players make it to day 2, then there's always a chance they match up again. So yeah, it's still useful to get more information.
And also, he's on the live stream of the World Championships in 2016. I'd want to make the most of my experience there.
Yeah, it's not every day you get to be in this situation if you're Cody, so certainly still trying to fight through and see if he can, you know, maybe at least put up a show, get some damage done.
So Koki is going to protect his Xerneas there and allow Smeargle to take its first turn of sleep. Not sure what attack Amoonguss went for onto the Xerneas, possibly a Spore, but maybe a Clear Smog.
Also a possibility.
So here we go, the second Moonblast coming out from the Xerneas here. It's going to do a big chunk to Amoonguss, which is going to survive. Being able to survive 2 boosted Moonblasts is a really good thing to have for your Amoonguss there.
Yeah, because of how powerful Xerneas is after that boost, it is still able to take 2 Moonblasts. So Cody definitely expecting this matchup. As you can tell, he did give it the red card, so he was expecting to use this Amoonguss against Xerneas a lot this weekend. So we do see the result of his training there, being able to take 2 Moonblasts. So that's, you can see that Cody has definitely thought out this team, and he's got a pretty good team for the rest of day 1. So I'm excited to see how he'll do if he can recover from this loss.
But I mean, look at him. He's still smiling. He's
he's having a good time.
Cool as a cucumber here, really just showing the power of his Amoonguss. And there's the sleep from Koki's side of the field. So everyone's been sleeping the last 3 turns, and I think we're just going to have to see how Koki's if Xerneas going to be wake up and just take this match.
Yeah, there's really hasn't been anything for Cody's Amoonguss to be able to win this game, but it's, you know, he's on stream. He certainly wants to put up a show, put some Pokemon to sleep.
Yep. And there we see
and not go down so easily.
Another turn of sleep from Amoonguss, and look, he's loving it.
Both players are laughing because everybody's just asleep. They can't end this game no matter how hard they try.
That's the thing, though. I mean, a lot of players have traveled from other countries. Jet lag is a thing, and these Pokemon are obviously feeling it too. Just having to make the most of the sleep that they can get. I mean, I've come from London, so I'm a little bit jet lagged as well. My body clock hasn't adjusted, so I could be like a Moonguss or Xerneas here and just drop off at any point. But luckily, exciting games like this keep me awake.
Yeah, I'm not as jet lagged as you, because you're coming from London. I'm from the East Coast, so I'm still a little jet lagged, but nowhere near as jet lagged as you must be. But I would certainly, I can relate to these Pokemon loving to get their sleep.
Yep, Cody's happy. He's got the full 3 turns of sleep there onto the Xerneas on Koki's side of the field. And Koki must just be thinking, please let me knock out this Amoonguss.
Yeah.
I would love to knock out this Amoonguss right now.
Yeah, he's been so close to the win for this match for like so many turns now. He's just waiting for the Xerneas to wake up just so he can finally claim victory in this match.
I mean, especially seeing as he wants to be able to prepare for the next round as fast as he can.
Right, the longer you're sitting up here, the less you get to maybe get something to drink, get a snack to eat in between rounds.
But I think
Just relax even.
the best thing to take in mind for Cody, though, is that he has made an impression on Koki Sakurai.
He has.
It's Amoongus has sat there being as annoying as it can and just saying, I will survive all your attacks and I will put you to sleep and there is nothing that you can do.
Yep, regardless of how Koki does, even if he ends up winning the World Championship, he won't forget this match. He'll remember just how difficult it was to knock out this Amoongus.
And so, again, the protect coming out from Amoongus on Cody's side of the field. That's one more turn that Koki cannot pick up this win. And you gotta think that when Koki gets back to his hotel room later on tonight, he'll print out a picture of Amoongus above his bed, never to forget what happened this day.
This match might even go to time.
It looks like it's going to. We've got 27 seconds left on the clock. Are we going to be able to see the Moonblast coming out from the Xerneas, or is Cody going to take his time and take it down to time?
Yeah, regardless, Koki will end up victorious here. Just one Pokemon remaining against two, and that one Pokemon has only got a sliver of HP left, so...
But that is a good thing to bear in mind for those watching at home. Not only do you have to... The two ways that you can win a match in the Pokemon Video Game Championship is to knock out all your opposing Pokemon, or take it down to timer, and the average HP of the Pokemon on your side of the field against your opponent will decide who's the winner. And then we see the Moonblast coming out from Koki's Xerneas onto the Amoongus, and both players looking like they've had a really good time. Amoongus, not so much, but it did what it wanted to do.
All right, so it looks like we do have both of our competitors on screen there. We will be seeing a double Primals up against a Xerneas Rayquaza, so the X-Ray up against the double Primals. Xerneas Rayquaza, a very interesting type of archetype. I mean, we've been talking about Rayquaza Groudon, Rayquaza Kyogre, which are sort of the basics of Rayquaza pairs. But Rayquaza Xerneas is no slouch as well, pairing up two really scary offensive threats.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is also going to be really fun because it's funny, you know, we were talking about team compositions before this tournament started, before we saw any matches, and we highlighted those that were, you know, so dominant. Groudon Xerneas, Kyogre, Groudon Kyogre, and then, you know, we mentioned like there may be 3 or 4 that are still really good, but might not see as much Yveltal Groudon, and then the Rayquaza Xerneas, Rayquaza Groudon. So in the first 2 rounds, we see Rayquaza Groudon, now we see Rayquaza Xerneas, and so I'm curious to see how it matches up here. You know, is it going to be able to take the win, or is the more standard dual Primals going to be able to overcome it?
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see. Of course, Raul will be running the dual Primals, and he does have some interesting techs here. I mean, I'm looking through this team right now. It's the dual Primals, of course, Kangaskhan, Bronzong, and then Zapdos and Ludicolo. So it really feels more like one of the old school Rain teams that we used to see with that Zapdos and Ludicolo. We'll have to see how those Pokemon can hold up now in this restricted meta.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see Ludicolo. I think it's a Pokemon that hasn't been used too much, and for good reason. You know, there's so many flying type attacks, Salamence and its, you know, Hyper Voice and Double Edge, Rayquaza with its Dragon Ascend, Talonflame with Brave Bird, and those can all easily knock it out. But it can be built on the bulkier spectrum, especially if it carries an Assault Vest, and it's still got pretty good typing and can hit really, really hard. So pretty cool to see that as a combination with Kyogre, but it's, you know, definitely got some challenges given that Luis has a Talonflame, has a Togekiss, and a Rayquaza. Those are all Pokemon that can get a super effective attack off, if not just knock it out in one hit.
Yeah, Ludicolo is a very interesting Pokemon because we talked about some of the grass types that pair well with Groudon with that Chlorophyll ability. Of course, Ludicolo can have the Swift Swim ability.
Yep.
But normally we don't see too many Swift Swimmers alongside Kyogre because you don't want to have too many water type Pokemon on the same team. But Ludicolo does still have that grass typing, which gives it a much better matchup against, for example, opposing Kyogre.
Right, and that's, you know, a big deal. Having Ludicolo out against Kyogres is really helpful because it can resist most of its attacks or its water type attacks, and if it has an Assault Vest, you know, it can survive those Ice Beams and Thunders. But obviously we don't see a Ludicolo on Luis's team instead. Honestly, Luis's team looks rather anti-Ludicolo. Like, it doesn't seem like Ludicolo's the best Pokemon to bring
This is
into
a
this
very
matchup.
aggressive team.
It is, and I think it's pretty interesting because Rayquaza Xerneas did win the Italy National Championships, which was the last European Championships, and so I'm really curious about kind of this team composition, especially the Togekiss. That's a Pokemon that we actually were talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, very interesting team here. Again, that's going to be the Xerneas and Rayquaza for the restricted core, alongside Talonflame, Kangaskhan, Togekiss, and Smeargle. So the first Smeargle that we will be seeing here on stream, most likely the first of many, but you never know. Maybe there are no Smeargle here at Worlds.
Right. I mean, that's one of the interesting things to see how the metagame develops. And now the question is, have people really all figured out their ways to beat Smeargle? As a result, you know, do people expect that and not bring the Smeargle, or do people still think Smeargle is really good in this format? But it looks like we're going to get into it.
All right. and you will see Raul's team on the top here, rather in the bottom box. Again, that's the dual primals, Kyogre and Groudon, alongside Kangaskhan, Ludicolo, Zapdos, and Bronzong. And Luis will be watching it from his perspective. Luis is running the Xerneas, the Rayquaza, Talonflame, Togekiss, Kangaskhan, and Smeargle. So like I mentioned, Luis's team very aggressive. Talonflame is a very aggressive Pokemon, so
Yep.
with a glass cannon. Rayquaza very aggressive. Xerneas, you know, those Geomancy sweeps are very real. And then a bunch of supporters like the Togekiss and the Smeargle to help back them up.
Yeah, I think if I'm Raul here, I definitely want to prioritize the Bronzong a little bit. There aren't too many Pokemon here that can really threaten the Bronzong. You know, we have Talonflame, which might have a Fire-type attack. Rayquaza could have a Fire-type attack, as can Togekiss. But Bronzong in general can threaten Xerneas, Smeargle, and Togekiss a fair amount. Of course, the Fairy typing, and then if it has a Lumberry, can take a Dark Void from Smeargle and wake up from it. So that's a big deal here. We're going to get into it.
All right, well, we are ready for this game. Luis Alberto Rubio versus Raul Flores. Should be an exciting matchup. I love watching these X-Ray teams play. They're just, you know, they are very explosive. Things get real very quickly. And it looks like we are going to have our first Kangaskhan Smeargle lead of the tournament up against Kangaskhan Bronzong. So Luis is choosing to lead with the Kangaskhan Smeargle, and Raul is going to go with that Bronzong and Kangaskhan, sort of an anti-Smeargle lead, potentially.
Yeah, I do believe this is actually the second game between the two of them already. I think Raul might have won the first one, so Luis is actually down at this point, and both players are actually 0-1 as well. So
yeah.
You know, you're definitely feeling the pressure at this point, because if you lose here, then you're not out of the tournament, but you are basically starting off in the worst position possible.
Yeah, no one wants to go 0-2. I mean, it's still possible for them to continue through the rest of the tournament and make it to day 2, but it's a very difficult position to be in if you go drop both of those. So both of these players trying to avoid getting in that position. Looks like Raul will go ahead and Mega Evolve his Kangaskhan, as will Luis. Oh, actually, sorry, Raul did not. Luis did, though. Raul does go for the Fake Out onto the Smeargle, while Luis is going to go for the Fake Out onto Bronzong. So trading Fake Outs there. Both of the partners of Kangaskhan taking the Fake Out damage and flinching and not able to make a move here.
Yeah, so obviously if you're curious why the Kangaskhan didn't Mega Evolve on Raul's side, that's because he probably has that inner focus, so he was expecting maybe a Fake Out from Luis's Kangaskhan to target into it.
Although it went first anyway.
Right, exactly. But, you know, that's a 50% chance you don't want to risk, and so playing on the safe side. However, now the Kangaskhan on Luis's end is going to be faster, so it does have that potential to just target down that Kangaskhan with an attack. Smeargle here, if it has a Choice Scarf, of course, can just outspeed and Dark Void both Pokemon, so that's a big deal as well. Bronzong looks okay here. We do see the Dark Void.
Yeah, the Dark Void comes out from Smeargle, will connect with Raul's Pokemon. Kangaskhan will go to sleep. Looks like the Bronzong will also go to sleep, needs that Lumberry to wake up. Bronzong does carry the Lumberry, will be able to wake up here, may be able to deal some damage back to the Smeargle. Luis will go ahead and Power Up Punch on his Kangaskhan, just going to make sure that it is as beefy and powerful as possible while dealing a lot of damage back to Raul's Kangaskhan. Gets those attack boosts. Kangaskhan on Raul's side will be asleep right now. And it looks like Bronzong goes for the Trick Room, trying to make sure that it can deal some damage here. But Kangaskhan's asleep, would need a one-turn wake-up to actually do anything here.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of a curious decision for the Kangaskhan not to Mega Evolve, because it does take more damage from that Power-Up Punch or any attack from Kangaskhan, but makes a little bit more sense now. If you are max speed Kangaskhan, you know, you might speed tie with the opposing Kangaskhan. Now that you're setting up Trick Room, if you do get that one-turn wake-up, you could, you know, guarantee to outspeed the opposing Kangaskhan since you're still slower, so faster under Trick Room and get an attack off. And we don't see any switch-outs, so Kangaskhan is going to Mega Evolve. Can it wake up?
Yeah, Raul's Kangaskhan needs to wake up for this Mega Evolution to mean anything, or else it will just go down to Luis's. Bronzong does go for a Gyro Ball, will be able to connect with the Smeargle, will deal a lot of damage, actually is enough to pick up the KO, so Smeargle will go down there. Already off the field, Gyro Ball doing work. Kangaskhan not able to wake up though, and another Power-Up Punch coming out from Luis, getting very greedy with that, but able to take out the Kangaskhan in one hit and get a free boost.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's probably the best attack you can use. There's no reason to go for a return or a double edge or a sucker punch. Power Up Punch not only picks up the knockout onto Kangaskhan at that point, you also get to increase your attack, so relatively risk-free. One interesting thing is, you know, now that this Kangaskhan is at +3 attack, it could have enough firepower to deal with that Bronzong, but we do see some pretty strong Pokemon switching in here.
All right, well, Groudon's out on the field for Raul. I was getting kind of excited with that Togekiss, but Groudon, with its Precipice Blades, may just be able to ignore whatever that Togekiss can deal back. Of course, maybe having Helping Hand with that +3 Kangaskhan, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can happen here right now. One interesting thing to note is that Luis opted not to bring both of his restricted legendaries, so that's a big deal here because, anytime you choose to not bring a restricted, you have to think very hard about why you're not doing so. So, maybe not bringing that Xerneas since Royal does have that Bronzong, but Togekiss here, of course, can redirect attacks away, but the thing with Groudon is you never know what kind of set it's running until you see it. So if it has something like an Eruption would be deadly. But Kangaskhan, of course, is at that +3 attack, so a Sucker Punch could actually knock out Bronzong or do a lot of damage to Groudon. So if you're Raw, you definitely still have to be very careful here because Sucker Punch is a very real threat.
All right, well, Kangaskhan threatening the Sucker Punch onto Bronzong. Togekiss will go for the Follow Me, does not want to have that Kangaskhan take any extra damage here. Bronzong actually going for Gravity here, really foreshadowing some Precipice Blades coming out from that Groudon. So Bronzong will use the Gravity, can't stay airborne anymore because of it, but Groudon will be able to deal damage with the Precipice Blades to both the Togekiss and the Kangaskhan. Deals a lot of damage, but Kangaskhan is still up. Kangaskhan does have that boosted return now onto Groudon that deals so much damage. And you know what? Luis may not have brought both of his restricted Pokemon, but he brought Mega Kangaskhan, which is just as good.
I mean, there's a reason why Mega Kangaskhan's been so good since it's been introduced in VGC, right? Dominated the World Championships last year, and fantastic damage out here. But it's still far from over if you're Raul. I think that you're still in a very good position. And one of the tricky things about using Xerneas Rayquaza is you don't have a way to control the weather fully. Rayquaza, of course, with Airlock can decrease the damage of water fire type attacks from Kyogre and Groudon. But there's no option to say switch into a Groudon to completely negate the Kyogre's chance of damaging. And that's a big deal here because Kyogre could get a pretty free opportunity to attack. But of course, once again, Kangaskhan still is threatening with that Sucker Punch. But that Bronzong is still looking like it's very difficult to knock out. And, Luis's team is already not very well equipped to deal with it. And he's in a pretty bad position if he wants to, kind of knock it out right now because it's actually a really big offensive threat against both Kangaskhan and Togekiss.
This could really come down to what water type attack that Kyogre is running.
Right.
If it's only running Water Spout as its only spread attack to hit both the Kangaskhan and the Togekiss, that could be disastrous for Raul. But it looks like Kyogre is going to protect, does not want to take any damage from a Sucker Punch coming in, just wants to try to get that Bronzong to deal as much damage as possible. Kangaskhan does go for the Sucker Punch into the Protect. Bronzong will use the Gyro Ball onto the Togekiss, so we'll be able to connect with the Togekiss, deal a lot of damage, not quite enough. Togekiss will hold on with 7 hit points, but next turn, with Trick Room still up, Bronzong can take out the Togekiss and then full power attack onto that Kangaskhan. Doesn't even have to worry about redirection.
Yeah, that was a risky turn there because if you just Sucker Punch the Bronzong, then that's a knockout. But obviously, Kyogre is the bigger threat right now. I don't think a +3 Sucker Punch would knock it out. We do see a double and he gets it.
Kangaskhan will not be able to deal any damage to that Kyogre.
Oh, the Bronzong target nails it.
Adapts. Even with the double protect, gets the Sucker Punch off onto Bronzong. Bronzong goes down, and Kyogre, it's looked really, really nice protecting with that double protect, but the Trick Room is over. Kangaskhan should be faster now, and doesn't have to worry about Sucker Punch anymore. It can just go for returns.
Yeah, and that's why priority is so strong, especially against Trick Room teams. Normally, it's like you set up Trick Room and suddenly your Pokemon are just faster than everything because, the opponent's Pokemon are going to be really fast outside of Trick Room. But with that priority, that's why stuff like Talonflame are able to succeed in this format, even though we've seen a little bit less of it. For example, it helps against Xerneas. Even if it gets that Geomancy boost off, if you get some damage out before, it can be in Brave Bird KO range. And here under Trick Room, it's able to, that Kangaskhan was able to threaten with Sucker Punch, and that's because Luis was able to get all these power-up punches off early on and got to +3 attack, and at that point, it does so much damage. Able to one-hit knock out the Groudon with the return and then one-hit KOing the Bronzong as well. So very, very well played with Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan's a really good Pokemon, but you don't expect it to kind of sweep through every Pokemon there, including the restricted legendaries, and they're really pulled off so much work, basically picking up 3 knockouts.
Well, that just speaks to what we haven't seen so far at this tournament, which is much Intimidate.
Right.
So that Kangaskhan without Intimidate was still able to just run over that team because you could not get rid of its boost. And that was a really heads-up play from Luis to switch out because Kyogre was pretty tempting because it had just used Protect. There was very low chance that it would be able to get a double protect or even go for the double protect.
Right.
But switching over to the Bronzong, identifying the last turn of Trick Room, taking out the Bronzong, and then being in a good position to take out the Kyogre outside of Trick Room. Real heads-up play there from Luis.
Right, and you have to think they could have gone completely a different way, right? If Bronzong just goes for a non-attacking, anything that's not Gyro Ball, and Kyogre goes for a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse, and suddenly you pick up a double knockout, Trick Room expires, and you've got Bronzong and Kyogre against Luis's last one, and Bronzong Kyogre actually beat everything that Luis had, so it was really one of those plays where it's like, I actually could have won the game completely if I just made the other play, but that was really clever of Luis to go for the Sucker Punch onto the Bronzong. If he didn't do that, most likely would have been game over, so very, very nicely done, and I think like Raul went a little bit too aggressive. He didn't need to be attacking with Bronzong constantly, but it's just so scary when you stare down a Kangaskhan at +3 attack. Like,
yeah, I feel like you have to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah, and you feel the pressure, so as a result, sometimes you aggressively target down. It doesn't pay out in his favor, but this is actually going to be game 3 between both of these players.
Our
now.
First game 3 of the tournament.
It is, and we didn't get to see how game 1 played out, but I'm excited, especially because these players are once again both 0-1, so the loser of this will drop to 0-2, meaning they'll have to win every game here on out if they want to make it to day 2. Meanwhile, the winner feels, a little bit more relieved knowing that despite that first round loss, you've been able to recover.
Yeah, if you thought it was stressful going into the first round, imagine going into the third round 0-2 and knowing you have to win out.
Yeah.
But here we are, game 2, Luis Alberto Rubio versus Raul Flores. Raul on the top with the Bronzong Kangaskhan up against Luis Alberto Rubio with the Smeargle and Kangaskhan. So same leads here. Got the Bronzong out for Raul. We've seen it has that Lumberry. Seems to be the Pokemon of choice, this lead matchup of choice for Raul to take care of that Smeargle.
Yeah, and I get this lead matchup a lot because it feels like Raul doesn't have any other way to deal with Kangaskhan Smeargle, so at least this gives him some options, but clearly we saw this lead matchup the last time it didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
A part of it was obviously Kangaskhan sleeping for more than one turn, but Raul has got to think of something maybe a little bit different because that first game didn't work out very well. We do know that this Smeargle was Choice Scarfed as it moved before everything else, so has that constant threat of Dark Void, so maybe Raul was hoping for a Dark Void miss. That would be big, but I'm curious to see how both players kind of switch up their strategy.
Wow, Raul does go for the Mega Evolution on Kangaskhan, but into Luis, who did not at all. No Mega Evolution from Luis.
Oh, it's not Inner Focus!
It's not Inner Focus, and it still takes the flinch. Dark Void will connect on Raul's side. But Kangaskhan avoids it. Bronzong will wake up, but the huge avoid from Raul's Kangaskhan not going to take any damage there, or not going to go to sleep, and Trick Room will be set up by Raul. Fortunately, since Luis didn't Mega Evolve his Kangaskhan, should be slower, but Smeargle's not in a good position right now.
Right, maybe that was the reason why he didn't Mega Evolve Kangaskhan. Normally you don't Mega Evolve your Kangaskhan because you have Inner Focus and you're expecting Fake Out, which is probably what we all thought here.
Yeah.
But, in this case, maybe just expecting the Trick Room. However, we know that it doesn't have Low Kick. It only has Power Up Punch, so it can't really deal that much damage. Of course, it could return the Kangaskhan on Raul's end, but that's not enough for a knockout. Like you said, this Smeargle is a sitting duck right now. It's the slowest Pokemon on the field.
And it's Choice Scarf.
Exactly. There's a good chance that...
we know what it's going to do.
Right. It has to switch out or Dark Void here. Gyro Ball might actually be able to pick up the one-hit knockout by itself. So there's a very real threat here that Raul was able to pick up a double knockout. Very unfortunate miss there on Kangaskhan, but that's what I was saying. Maybe he needs to hope for something, and he did change who he faked out this time, and that was a big deal as well.
Yeah, and that's just what happens when you play with Smeargle sometimes. Smeargle will switch out for Rayquaza this time. So one of the few times where we will see a Rayquaza out on the field without any weather to nullify.
Yep.
But Raul will go ahead and set the gravity. Sucker Punch did not affect it because of that. And Kangaskhan on Raul's side will go for the double edge. Will connect with the Rayquaza on the switch, and that's so much damage.
Oh my gosh! That's
Rayquaza
a knockout.
goes down. One hit KO. I mean, you wanted to get the Smeargle out of there, but you can't give up. You're restricted like that. That's so unfortunate for Luis.
Yeah, Luis still hasn't even Mega Evolved his Kangaskhan. Maybe trying to Mega Evolve the Rayquaza, but this is kind of a disaster for him here, and it would be really impressive for him to recover from the game. The reason why I say that is because Kangaskhan right now, it does have the advantage in that now it is still slower and can maybe one-hit knock out the Kangaskhan since it does have that recoil damage. But Bronzong here, obviously a pretty big threat. Gyro Ball does a fair amount of damage to both Kangaskhan and Togekiss, and Raul still has both of his restricted Pokemon in the back.
And Kangaskhan's the only threat for Luis now.
Right, exactly. If you can knock out this Kangaskhan, it's most likely going to be game over, especially if you can do it before Trick Room expires, because then that Smeargle doesn't have any options. Has to basically just get knocked out under Trick Room.
All right, well, it looks like Luis is just going to go for a follow me play on that Togekiss, just trying to take as much away, but Hypnosis out in gravity will connect onto Togekiss, so Togekiss will go to sleep here. does not have a Lum Berry or anything else to protect it. Power-up punch coming out from Luis. Knows that he needs to start dealing some damage, but that's still going to leave Kangaskhan up. So Luis will get some nice boosts on his own Kangaskhan, but Raul still sticking around, and a double edge from that Kangaskhan will connect with that Togekiss and deal a lot back. Just about 75% of the hit points of that Togekiss, and it does faint from the double edge recoil though, which is sort of an indirect knockout for Luis.
Yeah, I think if I'm Raul though, I'm actually pretty content though, because now I just get a free switch into my Groudon. I can just Precipice Blades. I don't think there's very much that Luis can do to stop that, because you know, sure the Kangaskhan is boosted, but it can't knock out the Groudon unless maybe a double critical hit Sucker Punch. Kangaskhan's also not a Pokemon that typically carries Protect, so that's also an issue, and this Togekiss, you know, is asleep as well. So I think Raul might have just set himself up perfectly for a Groudon Bronzong kind of sweep here. Maybe if Smeargle in the back can take a Precipice Blade since Trick Room is expiring soon, can switch in and maybe hope for a Dark Void, but I don't expect that to be able to survive a Precipice Blades. Maybe if it's really defensive, but those Choice Scarf Smeargles typically they want to invest in very much speed. No switch outs here, and Togekiss to stay asleep.
Yeah, Togekiss is still snoozing. Kangaskhan goes for a Sucker Punch, but into the Bronzong it looks like, or maybe the Groudon there, but Hypnosis will connect with the Kangaskhan with the Gravity. So if it went for the Sucker Punch, it looks like it was on Bronzong, so no Sword Stance plays here. Groudon just going to go for as much damage as possible. Not quite enough to pick up the KO onto Kangaskhan, but 5 hit points and a sleep, and needs at least 1 turn of sleep here. That's going to be about it for Luis.
Smeargle does come in here. Don't think that's enough. I don't think Trick Room expired
still
yet.
up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest deal. Yeah, I don't, even if Kangaskhan, you know, went for a return there, I don't think he could have done very much. I think you might have had to hope for a double crit Sucker Punch there onto Groudon, get something off. But
the only possible choice there would be able to potentially wake up this turn.
Right. But the early game was just so, you know, it went so poorly for Luis there. Raul got everything he wanted. The Dark Void miss was just icing on top. But that made it so much easier for him to play around in that first turn. I mean, Kangaskhan just didn't Mega Evolve for the first couple of turns. Maybe trying to play the kind of speed mind games with Bronzong and Trick Room up, but as a result, Kangaskhan wasn't able to do very much damage, and he got chunked. Like, that first fake out did around like 1/3 of its damage, and so it was always at a pretty low HP range right from the start.
All right, well, Luis's Kangaskhan is not able to wake up, so will be taking this Gyro Ball for free. Bronzong easily able to pick up that KO, and now Groudon will be able to use the Fire Punch onto that Smeargle. Going to go ahead and punch it down. Easy one-hit KO onto Smeargle, and Raul Flores will take this set 2-1 and advance as 1-1 going into round 3. All right, well, looks like we are going to have a very interesting matchup here, our first Eviltal of the tournament. So Thomas will be running the Eviltal Groudon team, Kangaskhan, Jumpluff, Raichu, Cresselia, very reminiscent of Arasho Madi's team.
Yep.
Up against Alan, who will be running again his Rayquaza, Kyogre, Thundurus, Mawile, Crobat, Gengar. Looks like basically the same team that he was running in Nationals.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. I mean, all the games we've been able to stream on the main stream today have featured very cool legendary duos. And hilariously enough, we haven't seen a Groudon Xerneas yet.
Not yet.
You know, I expect those to definitely be on the higher tables once we get later on in the tournament. But
this is the high table right now.
It is, yeah. So we'll see if these players will be able to continue using it. And, you know, gotta wonder where the Groudon Xerneas are. I'm sure they're out there. But, you know, for this match, really cool to see the Eviltal Groudon combination. That was something we'd been talking about. Obviously, Arasho Madi, one of the world's best players in Europe, you know, having won one of the European championships with it. And we do see the Jumpluff, which Arash also had on his winning team. So that's pretty cool. Raichu, another familiar face. Seems like a lot of players are actually liking Raichu now a lot more.
Yeah, Raichu's a very interesting Pokemon. We saw the fake out and encore pressure. Very good combination there, as well as, you know, being able to threaten Kyogre, I think, is what has really brought Raichu out in this metagame versus some of the previous years, where it had many of the same tools, but you know, didn't really have the targets for them.
Absolutely, and you know, here we have the Kyogre composition, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited to see that as well, because you know, anytime you have Kyogre with Rayquaza, a Groudon team has to be really scared, because there's that possibility of just getting a one-hit knockout instantly with a water type attack. And this,
we know that Alan has teched really hard for that matchup.
Yeah, exactly. For anyone that did tune into US Nationals, Alan's got a lot of cool tricks up his sleeve for the Groudon matchup specifically, but we actually see Raichu Eviltal here against Gengar and Crobat.
Leads you don't see very often. Raichu Eviltal up against Gengar Crobat. The Gengar Crobat was Alan's one of Alan's go-to leads at Nationals. Have to wonder how it matches up against this Eviltal, though.
Yeah, I think Alan might have been hoping for a Kangaskhan to come out here. You know, Gengar, if it is the Mega Gengar, can trap it in with its ability and can use Will-O-Wisp. And if you're able to trap Kangaskhan in and burn it, then Kangaskhan can't really do anything against Gengar and Crobat. And we saw that was a strategy Alan actually utilized a lot at US Nationals, where he was able to render Kangaskhan's useless and basically get so much momentum because it was effectively a 2-on-1. However, Eviltal here is looking like a really big threat. I mean, it has the potential to just one-hit knock out either of its Alan's Pokemon, depending on its moveset.
And Raichu can do it to the other.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Raichu is a Pokemon that is also very versatile, but Eviltal actually not wanting to take any damage, it's going to swap out.
Yeah, Eviltal is very frail, but it's going to switch out for the Kangaskhan. That was the Pokemon that Alan wanted to see in the lead matchup.
Oh,
Kangaskhan will and Gengar is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. So Alan is going to Mega Evolve. His Gengar will get that, will trap in that Kangaskhan. Crobat even going for the Tailwind here, so Gengar is fast and trapping its opponents. Thunderbolt does come out from Raichu, will connect with the Crobat, deal a lot of damage, not enough to pick up the KO here, but Gengar going to get the Will-O-Wisp off. Alan gets the Will-O-Wisp onto Kangaskhan on the switch-in, and that Kangaskhan is now burnt and trapped and can't go anywhere.
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Alan wanted the this is the lead that you wanted, and he didn't get it. But then Kangaskhan's like, that's okay, you know, I'll just come in and I'll take the burn anyway.
Yeah.
So kind of curious on what Thomas was really trying to go for there. I think maybe fearing a double target onto Eviltal, like a Super Fang and a Sludge Bomb, although you have the Sucker Punch potential.
It is a very frail Pokemon.
It is.
It's going to be the source of its of his damage. You don't want to have it take extra damage there.
Right.
Well, it looks like Kangaskhan is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. Will be able to use Sucker Punch on that Crobat. We'll be able to pick up a KO there, so even a burnt Kangaskhan can get something done.
Yep.
We'll pick up the KO there. Crobat will faint. Gengar, though, going on the offensive with the Sludge Bomb onto Raichu. Deals so much damage.
And the poison.
Gets the poison. Raichu just barely hanging on there, but will be poisoned. Nuzzle coming out will damage the Gengar and paralyze it, which will basically negate that Tailwind that's up. But the poison coming out on Raichu will mean that Gengar is going to be able to pick up the KO nonetheless.
Yeah, so, I mean, Kangaskhan was at least able to do something, but you've still got to burn Kangaskhan out right now, and that can't touch Gengar unless it goes for a Sucker Punch, but a Sucker Punch at this point shouldn't even knock out Gengar.
Yeah.
You know, we got some good information, though, Nuzzle and Thunderbolt from the Raichu, so Raichu isn't, or hasn't revealed the Volt Tackle, most likely not a physical variant here, and that's a big deal as well. So Kangaskhan here right now cannot do very much, and Eviltal's a pretty big offensive threat once again against both of these Pokemon. Now that Gengar's slower as well, Eviltal can just outspeed it, even if it's not going for a Sucker Punch.
Yeah, Rayquaza is the choice for Alan. Wants to have that heavy hitter out up against that burnt Kangaskhan. But like you mentioned, Eviltal, even though it ran away earlier on, now potentially able to threaten with some very powerful Sucker Punches. Or, you know, Knockoff can be a really important move against that Rayquaza. Take out whatever it's holding.
Right.
Could be like a Life Orb, and also could just knock it out entirely with its Dark Aura.
Right, and foul play is definitely something you have to consider too, especially for Rayquaza. Eviltal here right now is going to be faster than Rayquaza because Rayquaza can't Mega Evolve. So,
and if it does Mega Evolve, it'll just make it make the Eviltal stronger.
Right. You know, in this game, because Gengar's Mega Evolve, Rayquaza can't. But even in the future, like you said, it is a possibility. No switch outs or anything, and it's actually still faster.
Yeah.
Looking like it's a slower Eviltal.
This is a very fast Rayquaza. Goes for the Dragon Ascent, deals about 50% damage there. Rayquaza will drop its defenses. Kangaskhan goes for a double edge on the Gengar, not taking any damage there. Knockoff onto Rayquaza will not be enough. Will hang on to his Focus Sash, but the knockoff does get rid of the item eventually. Unfortunately, it was able to activate first. Gengar, though, is paralyzed and unable to move this turn.
Yeah, so unfortunate paralysis there on Gengar. Yeah, kind of curious to see the double edge onto the Gengar Slam, maybe predicting a switch. You know, that would make the most sense. But Rayquaza was able to get that Dragon Ascent off and do a lot of damage to Eviltal. However, I think if you're Thomas, you're actually still in an okay position because you threatened the Sucker Punch onto Rayquaza. If Rayquaza does have extreme speed, which a lot of Rayquazas like to carry, then of course you can just outspeed and knock it out. The Focus Sash item there on Rayquaza is also a big deal because it means it can't do as much damage. It also means, however, that you can effectively one-hit KO it. But it's still not the worst of positions here for Thomas. You know, I think his goal definitely would be to maybe knock out both Pokemon at the same time. He doesn't want that Kyogre to come out on Alan's end if his last Pokemon is Groudon, because depending on how the weather war is, you want to guarantee that you have Sun Up as opposed to leaving it down to speed, which both players right now don't know who's faster than who.
All right, well, Alan will protect his Gengar, so Gengar is protected here. Rayquaza does go for the extreme speed. Will connect with Yveltal. Should not be enough to knock it out. Will survive. Double Edge comes out from Kangaskhan, so we'll be able to pick up the KO onto Rayquaza. So Yveltal will be able to make a move here, but with the Protect, Gengar will be safe here. Of course, taking the recoil damage as well, and then the burn damage here at the end. So Kangaskhan is starting to lose a little bit of damage. Still able to get a knockout out because of the Focus Sash there, but have to see what Alan's final Pokemon is.
Yeah, and I actually just saw the Tailwind and totally forgot like Robot had set up that Tailwind, which is why that Rayquaza was able to outspeed.
That's right.
Doesn't really change much of what could have really happened there. That was my mistake that I missed it. But this is still really good, I think, if you're Thomas, because now the Kyogre is forced out, so Groudon is able to just come in if the last Pokemon is Groudon on Thomas's end, and hopefully that is, because then you gain ultimate weather control. You still have to be a little bit careful though. Gengar here could potentially maybe try to go for another Protect, and if you do, maybe Kyogre can actually pick up a knockout here. Kyogre also has to ask, do I use the water type attacks right now, or do I use an ice type attack, because the Groudon switching definitely is something that could happen.
Yeah, definitely don't want to make that mistake and try to go for a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse into a Groudon switch-in.
Yep.
No one comes out of that looking good.
Absolutely not. But, it's not over by any means. I think Thomas has the upper edge here, but Kangaskhan, or excuse me, you actually can't switch out right now, so you don't have to worry about that as much. So, now it's a question of what does Gengar do?
All right.
Kyogre protects.
Kyogre protects this turn. Yveltal and Kangaskhan may be able to go on the offensive here. Kangaskhan does go for the Sucker Punch, is going to connect with Gengar, so Gengar is going for an attack. Will take the damage.
So close.
Not quite enough for the KO there. Yveltal, though, does go for a Sucker Punch as well, but into the Protect. So because of that burn, Kangaskhan will not be able to pick up the KO. Yveltal takes a Sludge Bomb and will go down. So Gengar is able to pick up the KO onto Yveltal, and now whatever is in the back will be Thomas's final Pokemon, and we will have our final 4 Pokemon for this match on the field.
Yeah, I think that ends up being pretty good once again if you're Thomas, but then it's still a question of who's faster and can you hit your Precipice Blades. At this point, it really feels like it is going to be that Groudon as expected. It does feel like a Groudon versus Kyogre kind of matchup here. Kangaskhan, of course, still does threaten with Sucker Punch, so Kangaskhan can Sucker Punch the Gengar, but at this point, actually, Gengar can't do very much as well. However, you do want to avoid potentially getting Sucker Punch to the point where a Precipice Blades is a single target onto the Kyogre, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is going to come down to how these Pokemon are trained, but I think if you're Thomas, you definitely have the upper edge right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not over by any means, but if you are facing a Groudon-Kyogre matchup and you are in the sun, you feel pretty good if you're Groudon.
Yeah,
it's not over, but definitely a much better position to be in than the other way around.
I think there's a lot of information you want to note from here too, just figuring out who's faster between Kyogre and Groudon and the damage rolls on attacks such as Ice Beam and Precipice Blades. No Protect, no Sucker Punch, just the Double Edge coming out.
Yeah, nothing happening here. Double Edge from the Kangaskhan, just trying to deal as much damage as possible to that Kyogre. Deals some pretty good damage for being burnt there. Precipice Blades will move first, so Thomas will go first, connect with Gengar and Kyogre. Not enough to pick up the KO there, so Kyogre is hanging on here by a thread. It looks like that's actually within Double Edge range from before. Kyogre will go for the Ice Beam here and will connect with the Groudon, but not going to be enough damage there. Kangaskhan able to hold on with that through the burn there. It looks like it has 2 more turns of burn damage before it would go down. And that Ice Beam just not enough on the Groudon.
Yeah, this should be a win for Thomas here. Even if you have as long as you have a fire type attack, you don't need to risk missing Precipice Blades. And we do know that the Groudon's faster as well, which makes it even better for Thomas. That was a basically perfect scenario there.
Well, Thomas is still going for the Precipice Blades, but Kangaskhan just barely able to hang on through the burn, not taking enough recoil damage to go down yet. We'll have 1 more turn. For Alan to have a chance, he would really need to get another Protect. Doesn't get it. Double Edge from Kangaskhan will pick this up. And even though it switched into the burn and then got trapped, Kangaskhan takes home the finishing blow here, and Thomas takes a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, that's the most I think I've ever seen a burn Kangaskhan do.
It did a lot.
Right, that first turn was like, oh no, what's happening? But then I think Thomas set himself up really well there. I think the Yveltal was definitely the key because of how much it pressured everything. And the thing is, if you can't Mega Ball for Rayquaza and it doesn't have a Life Orb, its damage output is not that great.
Yeah.
You saw that Yveltal was able to hang on with a pretty healthy amount, and even with the Tailwind, there was only so much that Alan could have done in that position, and that's why the Raichu here is a big deal because of its ability to nuzzle. I think that speed control makes a difference, and it's why speed control is so good, and why Thunder Wave is a great way to counter Tailwind because you're suddenly able to slow down one of the Pokemon, and now only one Pokemon can take advantage of the speed. So that Gengar, while it did put in work against Kangaskhan in the beginning, Kangaskhan was always paired with something that was also really offensive. It can do a lot of damage.
All right, well, we are ready to get into Game 2. Again, you are looking at Thomas's team here on the bottom part of your screen. The Yveltal, Groudon, Kangaskhan, Cresselia, Raichu, and Jumpluff. Again, Alan is going to be running the Kyogre, Rayquaza, Thundurus, Mawile, Crobat, and Gengar. So in Nationals, we saw Alan basically run the same game over and over and over again until he broke you.
Yep.
Do you think he needs to make any changes here? I mean, it seemed like he had a pretty good shot. He got everything he wanted, and then he still wasn't able to take it home.
Yeah, I think actually Mawile might be the better Mega Evolution as opposed to Gengar here, because Mawile has a fantastic matchup against Kangaskhan, Jumpluff, Raichu, Cresselia, and Yveltal. All you need to do is make sure you knock out the Groudon out. That's not an easy task by any means, and one of the most difficult things about using Mawile in this format is Groudon switch-ins. But I think if you play the Mawile well enough, if you realize, okay, my goal is to knock out this Groudon, then you're going to be in a phenomenal position, because the issue with Gengar is that it's just far too weak to sucker punches, and any dark type attack from Yveltal can just knock it out, and it got paralyzed that last game. So I think Alan here is going to want to bring in Mawile. Not sure if he is, but of course he has 3 potential Mega Evolutions, so I don't think like Gengar really was that great for him last game because of the Yveltal being a omnipresent threat the entire time.
Well, it looks like Alan is going to stick with the Gengar and Crobat leads, while Thomas will go ahead and stick with the Yveltal Raichu leads. So basically play it over again. See what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Alan clearly thinks that he could have won that first game had his strategy worked out, and I think if you're Thomas, you're probably relatively content here. You do have to obviously watch out for the Will-O-Wisp on Yveltal. If you are since running knockoff, that damage is reduced if you are burned, but something like Foul Play, for example, its damage won't be affected. So there's still a lot of offensive pressure here from Thomas, and I'm really curious to see how Alan kind of, how he adapts from that first time, because that first game, sure, he was able to set up Tailwind, but Crobat didn't really do anything else, and then Gengar got paralyzed, and that was it. But,
Super Fang comes out from Crobat, but Raichu avoids it. Does still go for the Nuzzle onto Gengar. No Mega Evolution here. Gengar
and
is paralyzed! Oh no, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for Alan. Knockoff will knock off the Lumberry from Crobat and deal a good amount of damage there. Well, that's a disaster for Alan.
Yeah, I mean, that turn literally could not have played out anywhere. So if you're Thomas, you must feel really good.
Yeah.
You lost absolutely nothing from that turn other than the potential to fake out. You did so much damage. Now this Gengar's slow too, and Crobat, can only Super Fang or Tailwind, but you could once again potentially pick up a double knockout. Even if you don't pick up the double knockout, Gengar's still paralyzed, and it's still just slower than everything. So this paralysis is really making the game difference, and this Raichu is putting in a lot of work, surprisingly. That first game doing so much damage to Crobat, and the second game just being able to paralyze Gengar once again.
All right, well, looks like Crobat will use the Tailwind, trying to negate the speed drop from the paralysis a little bit. Raichu will still go ahead and nuzzle that Crobat. Will be able to deal some damage back. It's super effective, but doesn't deal that much damage.
Is there a Lumberry?
does get the paralysis knocked off the previous turn on the Crobat, but will knock off this turn again, pick up the KO onto Gengar. So that paralyzed Gengar not able to do anything, and Crobat now paralyzed in the Tailwind. Whoever Alan has in the back, this Kyogre will be the beneficiary of that Tailwind, but it's going to need to deal a lot of damage here and not take any damage back. Very hard to do with an Yveltal on the field.
Right, like you mentioned, Crobat not being able to heal its paralysis because of the knockoff earlier, which is a really big deal actually here, because Crobat's known to be a Pokemon that's really great for setup, and it can Super Fan, but it can never pick up those knockouts unless, of course, you bring something down to its Focus Sash or 1 HP. So Crobat here is in a kind of awkward position. Tailwind's up, but you're actually still the slowest Pokemon, so you don't want to Super Fang after your Kyogre attacks. The idea is you Super Fang to weaken something and then pick up a knockout with Kyogre, but now because Crobat's paralyzed, it's like, do I stay in and Super Fang? Do I switch out? No switch outs, and Kyogre actually protects here.
Well, it looks like Alan wants to protect his Kyogre, wants that Crobat to be able to get a Super Fang off eventually. Ooh, Super Fang will be able to connect this time, is going to connect with Yveltal, so Yveltal will lose half of its health, the Sucker Punch and the Nuzzle into Kyogre, into that Protect, of course, so Alan does eventually finally get that Super Fang off, and Kyogre is still fast, but really depends on what water spread move he has. If he has Water Spout, less effective because of that Sucker Punch.
Yep.
Origin Pulse, though, could start dealing some damage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if you do get hit by a Sucker Punch, like, you get a Water Spout, but the thing is, this Raichu is still such a big threat if it has that Focus Sash. Like, and even if it doesn't, if Kyogre's using a Water Spout here, then it's not going to be able to pick up the knockout. That means Raichu will be able to get a Thunderbolt or a Nuzzle off. We do see the Rayquaza coming in here, maybe trying to catch the Groudon switch in here. So do we see Thomas switch out? No switch out.
No switch out, so Yveltal just goes for the Sucker Punch onto Kyogre, deals a lot of damage back. Origin Pulse is the move from Alan. Will connect with Thomas's team. Yveltal and Raichu taking a lot. No knockouts, though. Thunderbolt will connect with Kyogre. No Nuzzle here, just trying to get all the damage. Kyogre dropped down to the red. So a lot of damage dealt to Kyogre, but no paralysis there means Kyogre is still very fast, and Rayquaza now has the ability to outspeed that Yveltal, potentially with an Extreme Speed.
It does, yeah. Extreme Speed's priority is higher, and Tailwind is still up, so that Rayquaza, I mean, even if Tailwind are up, your Extreme Speed should go before the Sucker Punch here. So a really, really good position, I would say, but, you know, the thing is, Thomas still has 2 Pokemon in the back, and that's something you have to be a little bit scared of. However, now Rayquaza can actually hit a lot harder because it didn't the Gengar didn't Mega Evolve earlier, so that might be the key here too. Rayquaza being able to Mega Evolve means it can dish out significantly more damage, and this time the Yveltal is severely weak to the point where it might not even be able to do anything to that Rayquaza. And I think Yveltal is actually the best answer to Rayquaza on Thomas's team. So dealing with this Rayquaza might be difficult. It might kind of rely and come down to perhaps that Kangaskhan in the back.
Yveltal does get a Protect up, so no Extreme Speed into the Yveltal, into the Protect. Raichu goes for a Feint. So using Feint onto Kyogre, a valiant effort there from the Raichu, but not quite enough to knock out Kyogre. Alan smartly goes for the Ice Beam instead of risking an Origin Pulse miss. Will be able to pick up the KO onto Raichu this turn around. And now the Tailwind has run out though, so Kyogre may start being slower. I don't know that we saw with certainty which Pokemon was faster of Groudon and Kyogre.
Yeah, Groudon was faster.
Was faster?
Yes, but I'd imagine that if Thomas has Kangaskhan, you want to switch in Kangaskhan here so you get the chance to fake out the Rayquaza. And then it's a question of, does Yveltal double up onto Rayquaza? Do you think Rayquaza is going to protect, or do you just go for the target onto Kyogre? But the Origin Pulse here is also a big deal, though. If the only spread type attack was Water Spout, then you don't have to worry about both of your Pokemon taking a lot of damage. But Origin Pulse still does a heaping heck amount to both Kangaskhan, and it will knock out Yveltal here, too. So Thomas is being very careful about the Pokemon that he brings in here. Actually, he brings in Groudon.
Is going to bring in the Groudon, of course, because Rayquaza has not Mega Evolved, no weather's in effect, so Groudon is not protected from any Water-type attacks, either from that Kyogre or from that Rayquaza.
Yeah, and this could be really scary. I mean, Rayquaza here does have the ability to just Extreme Speed once again and knock out the Yveltal, and then Kyogre can just try to knock... Oh, I mean, it could knock out Groudon, of course, but Kyogre, since it is heavily damaged, is a little bit slower right now, but the Tailwind potential play is still in the back. You could switch Kyogre out into Crobat and maybe try to set up a Tailwind. So there are some mind games right now, because it's like, if Rayquaza Extreme Speeds Yveltal, then... you know, your Kyogre might switch out into Crobat, you might try to set up a Tailwind, but you know, Thomas, of course, still has the potential of having Kangaskhan in the back. That's a Pokemon that does get access to Sucker Punch, and... So it's going to be difficult if Rayquaza, I think, doesn't have a Water-type attack to one-hit knock out the Groudon. Of course, it still has a chance to Mega Evolve, so even Dragon Ascent will do a lot of damage, but it won't pick up the knockout. I think it actually really comes down to what Thomas's last Pokemon is going to be.
Yeah, well, we should be seeing that very soon. Alan will go ahead and Mega Evolve his Rayquaza this turn. We'll go ahead and put the Delta Stream up instead of the neutral weather. So Rayquaza now Mega Evolved to that Mega Rayquaza. We'll be able to deal a lot of damage back, goes straight for the Extreme Speed. Once that Yveltal off the field, we'll be able to pick that up very easily with the Extreme Speed with that priority. No Sucker Punch coming out there. No Protects this turn either. Groudon will go for the Fire Punch onto the Kyogre, so we'll be able to roast that fish. Kyogre will go down to the Fire Punch, and again, like you mentioned, it's really going to come down to what that final Pokemon is.
Yeah, that's a tricky one there. I mean, Alan's just opting to give up that Kyogre, realizing I probably won't be able to get a Water-type attack off.
It is Kangaskhan.
It's probably a really good Pokemon, I think, if you're Thomas the half here, because you have the fake out pressure as Crobat does come back in. But it's not over by any means. I think it will be difficult, though, however, because actually, you know, Crobat does get access to Quick Guard, so that could open up maybe for some plays. But the main issue is because Crobat's paralyzed, it's not probably going to be able to get a Super Fang off. So at most, maybe you can Quick Guard, but I don't expect this Rayquaza to be able to pick up a one-hit knockout against Kangaskhan or Groudon. However, Groudon is a Pokemon that might not have too much to hit the Rayquaza, so it's going to be a tight finish here. I think Thomas has the advantage. This turn is going to be really game-defining.
All right, well, Kangaskhan Mega Evolves Rayquaza is just trying to protect this out, does not want to take free fake-out damage. So Kangaskhan goes for the double edge, actually, into the Rayquaza slot, and Groudon will finish off the Crobat with the Fire Punch. So we're back here now with Rayquaza up against the Kangaskhan and Groudon. Like we mentioned before, it's just going to be a matter of how Alan chooses to play this. And this is the risk you run with Rayquaza. You know, it's a very powerful Pokemon, but it can only deal with one of these threats at a time.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be game over here, and I think Thomas is actually going to advance to 3-0. He cannot knock out either of these Pokemon quickly enough. Even if it has a Water-type attack at this point, Kangaskhan Sucker Punch plus a Double Edge should knock it out, and it is going for the safer Sucker Punch here to get that guaranteed damage.
Yep, Kangaskhan does go for the Sucker Punch here. Rayquaza uses that Dragon Ascent. Will be able to deal a lot of damage to one of these Pokemon, but again, only one of these Pokemon. Not even a one-hit KO on that Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan holding on there as Rayquaza loses some of its defenses in advance of this Fire Punch. Groudon still not dealing that much damage thanks to the not very effective Fire Punch there, but Kangaskhan can definitely pick this up with a Sucker Punch, although Extreme Speed will outspeed the Sucker Punch, but it goes for the Groudon instead of the Kangaskhan.
Yeah,
so
that's
Kangaskhan not getting enough damage, but Groudon able to easily pick this up with that Fire Punch. And Thomas will advance to round 4 now, 3-0.
Representing
the legacy
France.
of France lives on.
Still playing, so...
And Akatsuki Sakamoto on your screen right now, he's actually using a team that's kind of reminiscent of the Japan Nationals final. It's got that Talonflame, it's also got a Sylveon, which is a Pokemon that we haven't seen too much in this metagame.
Yeah, we see the teams right now on screen, you know, Grayson going to be running that Groudon, Dialga, Salamence, Clefairy, Bronzong, and Smeargle.
Dialga's not a Pokemon that we've seen too much often, has it?
Not too much, and you know, Dialga does have a lot of synergy with Groudon, you know, that telepathy ability, you know, that allows Groudon to be able to go for Earthquakes or be able to, if it is Earthquake, you know, it is a more accurate option. Not exactly sure what Grayson's going to be opting for here just yet, but...
For the team that you cannot see on your screen, Akatsuki Sakamoto, he's using Rayquaza, Sylveon, Smeargle, Groudon, Cresselia, and Talonflame.
Yeah, and Sylveon's a Pokemon that was featured in the Japanese National Championship, you know. Yeah. Sylveon is like Xerneas, but a bit weaker. But at the same time, it doesn't take up a restricted slot.
Exactly.
Right?
And it also has a really quite interesting priority attack. Obviously, it's got Quick Attack, which it learns when it's as an EV. But due to the Pixelate ability from Sylveon, it actually gets a little bit of a boost and turn into Fairy-type attacks as well. So a little bit more damage output there as well.
Right, and you know, going into this tournament, a lot of people have been looking at these Groudon Rayquaza cores thinking, is this going to be enough to be able to take the World Championships? You know, it was enough to take the Japanese National Championships, and usually that's a good reflection as to how good of a team is. You know, if it's able to win the Japanese National Championships, that's the team to look out for. So we'll have to see exactly how it goes up right now against Grayson's team of Groudon and Dialga. Groudon and Dialga, you know, a lot of people are trying to make Dialga work. Right? Yep. It has access to Trick Room.
Trying to use it at US Nationals, right?
It has access to Trick Room, and one thing that's going to be cool is going to be seeing how this Clefairy plays out.
Oh, here we go. So we're going to jump into round 3 of the World Championships live from San Francisco, California. For Akatsuki Sakamoto, we have Smeargle and Groudon. And for Grayson Garin, we're going for the Dialga Salamence, so a double dragon lead.
Something that we don't see too often anymore. We do see the Intimidate go off. That might be affecting this Groudon depending on what kind of Groudon this is. Is it going to be physical or is it going to be special? If it's anything like the Japanese National Championship team, though, it's probably going to be a special. So this Intimidate might not matter at all.
So we've got the Dialga on the opposing side of the field, who doesn't want to be taking too many Fire-type attacks due to it being a Steel-type. So with the Desolate Land up, obviously that is some big damage that Akatsuki could get off here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this Salamence can hit pretty hard. You know, Hyper Voice does hit Groudon for its more especially weak side.
Yep. So
we'll have to see exactly what Grayson decides to do here. Dialga can go on the offensive, but it does have to be careful about Smeargle and Groudon. You know, you don't want to get your Pokemon knocked out or put to sleep right off the bat. That's a bad way to start, you know, this round 3. Both players are already off to a 2-0 start. You know, they're pretty happy with where they are, but they're nowhere near done for the day yet, right?
Exactly, and we talked about how important it is to try and get an early momentum build in these tournaments. So going 2-0 from the very start is a great thing to have. And we're going to see a Mega Evolution coming out from Grayson Garin here. Salamence is going to trade that Intimidate ability for the Aerialate ability, turning normal attacks into Flying-type attacks. And we're actually going to see a Protect coming out from Dialga there. Doesn't want to take any super effective ground or Fire-type attacks. And we're going to see a Wide Guard coming out from Smeargle there, going to protect against Hyper Voices from Salamence. And Salamence is going to go for that Hyper Voice there, protected from the Wide Guard. And what is Groudon going to go for here? Groudon is going to go for the Eruption, going to do some big damage to Salamence. It's going to leave it with just under half HP, but obviously Dialga, due to its Protect, is not worried about that at all.
And we do see Smeargle activate its Moody. Not exactly sure what that boost was.
The drop was Evasion.
Okay, well that might be relevant, but the important thing there is that, you know, Dialga kind of got out of there scot-free. Akatsuki making a great call right there to go for the wide guard, protect his Groudon from getting hit.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really great read from his side of the field, noticing that Dialga might want to protect here just because it is in a bad position up against that Groudon. And Salamence, obviously, with its hitting, being able to hit Groudon on its like slightly less built-out special defense stat, having that Hyper Voice blocked is really important for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, that Smeargle, if it's carrying a Focus Sash, it is still intact, as we do see Smeargle go for another wide guard here.
So wide guard there, and Salamence actually did go for a Hyper Voice, it looks like, and it's going to be another Eruption coming out from the Groudon. It's going to hit both Pokemon. Dialga survives with a sliver of health, but Salamence is off the field.
Massive amounts of damage right there, and Dialga does get to go for one move, as we do see the Citrus Berry activate here.
Yeah, so the Citrus Berry has been crocked for Dialga. It's going to leave about a third of HP here. And what is Dialga going for? It's going for a Dragon Pulse. Who's it targeting? It's targeting the Smeargle, and Smeargle survives with 1 HP. That is a Focus Sash.
Yeah, and we do see Moody activate again. It is going to go ahead and be the Evasiveness rising sharply right there.
And we're actually going to see, I think it's either special attack or special defense. I'm sorry, my Japanese isn't the best, but that could be relevant if it's a special defense drop.
Irrelevant
Actually, well, no,
boost.
it's relevant because he's only got 1 HP left.
Yeah. We do see Salamence get knocked out. Unfortunately, right there, that Grayson wasn't able to get off an attack.
Yeah.
With that Salamence, you know, it's kind of weird to see that Grayson didn't decide to go for just a double edge at that point. You know, at this point, you kind of had to go for these knockouts on the Smeargle because Smeargle's a tough Pokemon to deal with, right?
Yep, you never know what it's doing.
If Smeargle has a great opportunity to go for the Dark Void, both your Pokemon are going to be ending up asleep, and you don't want that at all.
Also, we've got 2 Steel types on the opposing side of the field for Grayson Garen. Akatsuki must be liking this position. He's got a Groudon here, full HP, in the Desolate Land, and both those Steel types are going to take huge amounts of damage from this. So Dialga's going to go down here. How much is it going to do to the Bronzong? Bronzong survives, like, with a little bit of HP left, so...
most likely a heat-proof Bronzong right there.
We were talking about it before.
Talking about it right there.
We called it for you guys. So Bronzong is going to be able to launch an attack here. He's going to drop up the Trick Room, but now Grayson is down to just 2 Pokemon.
I believe Smeargle actually missed that Dark Void right there, as we do see another raise in special for Smeargle.
So both specials, it's like both special stats there being raised, raised and then dropped. So Smeargle being on 1 HP, it doesn't really matter too much at those points. Those boosts were kind of irrelevant here. But Smeargle is having a great time, even if it missed the Dark Void there, being able to get those 2 big wide guards off, really helping out for Akatsuki.
Yeah, and I don't mind Grayson's position right now. You know, Trick Room is up. Bronzong, of course, is heavily damaged, but I feel like this is going to be a Trick Room Groudon. Looking at that Groudon's hit point stat right there, that's probably going to be a very speedy Groudon.
Yep.
So I feel like right now the Groudon on Grayson's side is going to be able to go first, get a lot of damage off, but he does have to be careful though, because I don't think that the Precipice Blades from Groudon on Grayson's side will be able to pick up the KO, as we do see a Spiky Shield from Smeargle here.
See a Spiky Shield from Smeargle. Is Bronzong going to be able to use a Skill Swap onto the Groudon? No, it went into the, it looks like it's...
Oh, Fire Punch into there.
Wow. So there we go. There's a Earth Power coming onto the Groudon from Akatsuki, and it's going to pick up the knockout there. And wow, Grayson must be really disappointed with how this turn's played out.
And we do see Smeargle go ahead and pick up a Evasiveness rising again.
Yep, and that is the speed they're dropping for Smeargle, which are beneficial in Trick Room.
Yeah, but this game is over right now. You know, Bronzong versus a Groudon, it's not going to be able to do much. The only attacking move that it probably has is Gyro Ball, as we do see the forfeit right there from Grayson. So back to the drawing board for Grayson. I don't necessarily agree. Well, I can see why he's going for that Fire Punch. You know, he's worried about the wide guard.
Yep.
So, you know, Grayson has to kind of be able to set up Trick Room a lot faster, in my opinion. You know, this team right now is the Groudon is really fast, and Smeargle is also going to be a pretty speedy Pokemon as well.
Yep.
Right? So you want to be able to set up that Trick Room and have that speed control under your own position, you know? I feel like the Trick Room came a bit too late.
Yep. And
you have to you're going to have to be able to outprotect him right now.
So
Grayson has to outprotect Akatsuki.
So let's go over the teams once again. So on your screen, you can see Grayson Garen's team, which is going to be Groudon, Dialga, Salamence, Clefairy, Bronzong, and Smeargle. And off-screen, Akatsuki Sakamoto's team, Rayquaza, Sylveon, Smeargle, Groudon, Cresselia, and Talonflame. If you're Grayson, how do you switch it up this game?
You're going to have to just be able to read those wide guards a lot better, you know?
Yep.
The key right there is that Salamence got knocked out immediately without being able to do much. maybe be able to target down that Smeargle as well. You know, Smeargle brings a lot of mind games to this format. What's a Smeargle going to do? Is it going to go for the wide guard? Is it just going to go ahead and protect itself? Or is it finally go on its offensive, in quotation marks, with the Dark Void, right? So it's going to be a tough call for Grayson. He's going to have to be able to read Akatsuki and predict when those wide guards are going to come up, when that spiky shield's going to come up, and when that Dark Void's going to come up, you know?
So, I mean, that's the thing. Smeargle gives so many mind games, and Akatsuki being in the lead in this match, he's got a little bit more flexibility now. He can really just try and figure out what Grayson wants to do. If he doesn't want to go on the offensive, he's still got or if he finds himself in a bad position, he's still got that third game to fall back on here.
Absolutely. It's a game of information, right? You know, Grayson has a lot more information about this Smeargle. Smeargle's kind of a wild card, really, in my opinion. It can learn any move in the game. I don't know what it's going to know. So Grayson does know 3 of the moves right now on this Smeargle, which is going to be important coming into this matchup.
So we're going to get into the second game of this round 3 Swiss match here at the World Championships live in San Francisco. So we're going to see the same lead coming out from Akatsuki, which is going to be Smeargle and Groudon, and we're going to see the Bronzong Salamence lead from Grayson. So no issues at all for Akatsuki to say, I'm perfectly happy with how last round went. Let's do it again. Let's win this again. But Grayson, I think he's been listening to you, Dewey, because obviously he wants to get that trick 'em up now.
Absolutely, and he does still have to be careful, though, because this Smeargle can go for a wide guard. It can just go straight for a Dark Void. There's a lot of options that it can do because, you know, right now this Smeargle's sandwiched in between the Salamence and the Bronzong, right? The Salamence can hit the Smeargle, but at the same time, it will knock it out. We saw the Focus Sash before, so a Dark Void is a huge threat. Of course, Bronzongs are pretty well known to carry Chesto Berries, Lum Berries, something to wake itself up from the Smeargle.
So that could be an option. Obviously, we've seen that Bronzong will survive a full power eruption in the sun from Groudon on Akatsuki's side of the field. So if Grayson wants to go directly for that Trick Room, it doesn't seem like such a bad option right now.
Absolutely not. I'm not exactly sure which one's more powerful. I believe the Eruption in the Sun is still more powerful than a super effective Earth Power. As we do see Salamence here in Mega Evolve, what is going to be going on this turn? It's so exciting to watch here in Game 2.
This is the World Championships right now for you guys. So Salamence is going to Mega Evolve here. It's going to be a big double edge going onto that Groudon, which is going to leave it with just over half HP. Salamence picking up a little bit of recoil damage there. And we're going to see the Eruption coming out from Groudon. So good work from Grayson to lower the effect of damage there from Eruption. Bronzong taking that and surviving quite nicely there. We've got the Dark Void coming out from Smeargle. It's going to hit someone. Who's it going to put to sleep? We've got the Salamence asleep. Is the Bronzong being able to stay awake? Oh, no, it falls asleep as well. But what item is the Bronzong carrying?
There it is, the berry.
There it is.
The Chesto Berry right there from that Bronzong.
And are we going to see the Trick Room coming out here from Grayson? There we go. So the Trick Room is now up. Trick Room is in effect for Grayson Garen, and he's in a better position than he was last time.
And we do see Smeargle get an irrelevant raise right there in Special.
Yep, and also his defense just dropped.
So I say irrelevant, you know, it could come into play later on, depending on whether or not it was special attack or special defense. You know, the defenses getting boosted are kind of unfortunate, as we saw back when Joshua Lorsi played Chase. You know, defense boost just became too much. But Trick Room is up right now, but it's not exactly the best time to be in Trick Room because Salamence is sleeping. Bronzong has burned its Chesto Berry. Bronzong's not going to be able to pick up the KO on this Smeargle at all, so I would have preferred to see a hit into that Smeargle slot.
Well, now might be the time to, as we were talking about, let one of his Pokemon faint so that he can bring something in from the back. That Groudon from Grayson would love to be on the field right now. I don't think he wants to bring it in and take some super effective damage from the opposing Groudon. There's a Hypnosis.
Oh, there we go.
Blind Hypnosis onto the Smeargle. Smeargle's going to take a nap here, so getting a taste of its own medicine there.
That's what he needed right there, as Smeargle does take its first turn of sleep here. Huge Hypnosis right there from Grayson.
And here we see the Eruption coming out from the Groudon. Is Bronzong going to be able to survive this? It does. It's got a sliver of HP left. Salamence is going to take its first turn of sleep here. So, wow, a good Blind Hypnosis there from Grayson. We're talking about how relevant that would be. And here we go, Moody. So
I believe that was an attack raise.
And an accuracy drop.
Yeah, so huge Hypnosis right there from Grayson to be able to kind of get himself in position. I would like to see him spend this turn, maybe either going for another Hypnosis onto the Groudon or just go ahead and breaking that Focus Sash on that Smeargle to kind of set himself up to be able to pick up the KO on that Smeargle eventually. The Hypnosis would be huge because that would allow Salamence to stay on the field for one more turn, right? Because I think right now the Salamence is about to get knocked out from another Eruption, so Salamence waking up would be great for Grayson to start getting some more offense pressure out.
Yep. And also, Smeargle being prioritized off the field here would be great for him because it's just causing so many issues.
It is, and you know, the first turn Dark Void is something that he changed up. You know, he already forced Grayson to go for a Double Edge instead of a Hyper Voice, simply because of that, right? Hyper Voice probably wouldn't have done the exact same amount of damage to the ground and also be able to break that Focus Sash on Smeargle, as we see Salmon switch out right now for a Groudon.
So here comes the Groudon. A little bit of relief here for Grayson. He's got that Smeargle asleep, so Groudon might be free from getting a Dark Void here, but he's got to wonder what Akatsuki's Groudon's going to be doing. Is it going to be able to not be put to sleep by Hypnosis, or is it going to go straight for a... Oh, well, there's a Protect.
There it is, the Protect.
So Akatsuki here, comfortable to try and get rid of Trick Room, and there's the Gravity coming out from Bronzong on Grayson's side of the field. And we see the sleep from Smeargle.
Good Gravity. Make your Precipice Blades 100% accurate, as we do see an Evasiveness rise sharply, and that's exactly not what Grayson wanted to see.
No, and that's another special attack or special defense drop.
Yeah, you know, the Gravity is out, which makes it, you know, moves a bit more accurate, but the Evasiveness rising could still lead to some possible misses.
Yes, yes, yes. But the thing is, though, Akatsuki doesn't... I don't think he minds this particularly because all the while, Trick Room is going down.
Grayson's still in good position, though. He can still go for the Gyro Ball in that Smeargle as long as it stays asleep, and then possibly go for a Precipice Blades. But again, this all really relies on Smeargle taking another turn of sleep. It's already taken 2 turns of sleep.
Yep. So will Smeargle wake up and wreak havoc once again on the World Championships?
Can Smeargle wake up in Wide-Guard? That's going to be the huge question right now for Grayson and Akatsuki. So we do see the Groudon get a double protect.
Double protect
huge.
coming out onto the Groudon there. That's a big deal. Bronzong launching attack into Groudon there. The opposing Groudon also launching a big Precipice Blades here, which would have done massive damage to the Groudon. Smeargle's going to survive with 1 HP. What is Smeargle going to use here? You can only imagine it's going to be a Dark Void should it wake up.
Smeargle stays asleep. Huge turn for Grayson right there. Fortunate for Grayson.
Poor Akatsuki. You can see that mattered a lot to him.
As we do see a speed rise sharply, which is going to be pretty unfortunate for Akatsuki, as Trick Room is still here.
And that was an attack drop. So it seems like a lot of the drops that Smeargle seems to be getting at this point in time are irrelevant. Attack, special defense. When you're running a Focus Sash variant, you don't really mind too much about taking damage.
Once Trick Room expires, it's going to be a very problematic Pokemon, though. You know, it's got its speed raised, it's got its evasiveness risen. So
yep, this is the issue. This is the issue with Smeargle.
You want to knock out the Smeargle right now.
Yeah, I mean it's causing too many issues. It's a Pokemon that really just warrants so much attention. But when it's paired next to this Groudon, which is throwing eruptions out left, right, and center, who do you choose? Like it's too difficult.
It's gonna wake up this turn. So yep. Grayson might have to go for another Hypnosis into the Wide Guard if Smeargle does go for a Wide Guard, as we do see a Wide Guard from Smeargle as it wakes up. Grayson not exactly sure what that reaction is.
Oh, and there's a Gyro Ball going out onto the Smeargle, which will pick up the KO, so Smeargle is off on the field. But Grayson may have just used the Precipice Blades, which is actually going to not do any damage onto the Groudon. There we see, picked up by the Wide Guard there. A big eruption from Akatsuki. He's going to take out the Bronzong, do minimal damage to the Groudon, but Trick Room won't be coming back.
Trick Room's over?
Well, I mean, Bronzong's left the field.
Right. Is Trick Room, I think there's still one more turn, which means that Akatsuki can easily just stall it out.
No, I think Trick Room actually just ended.
Trick Room just ended? Alright, well then, now this Groudon is going to be able to pick up the KO with the Earth Power, so great turn right there from Akatsuki.
He's having a really good time. I mean, obviously he didn't enjoy having Smeargle be asleep for that long, but he managed to get 2 Protects off, which was really great back-to-back from Groudon, and he managed to stall out Trick Room, so he's in a commanding position in this game.
Those were absolutely huge Protects right there. Grayson, I believe, still has that Salamence sleeping in the back.
Yep.
It should be waking up anytime soon now. We'll also have to see what else Grayson has in the back as well, as we do see a Sylveon.
Oh, Sylveon coming out from Akatsuki Sakamoto. Once again, not a popular Pokemon that we've seen too much in this metagame, but in Japan, pulled off a really big win in the hands of Hideo Katake.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Japan Nationals.
I'm not sure with the damage calculations here on the Salamence, but Sylveon with a quick attack, I'm not sure if that will be able to pick up the KO on that Salamence from that range.
I don't think so. It depends on how it's trained, but you would imagine it'd be more likely to be throwing out Hyper Voices. But with Groudon resisting that, it depends on what Grayson wants to go for. If Salamence is going to wake up this turn, it'll be able to do some big damage to the Groudon. And we're actually going to see a Protect coming out from Grayson's Groudon there. Doesn't want to take any damage here. What is going to happen? Sylveon is going to use that. Oh, it is enough!
It is enough to pick up the KO.
And so there's the quick attack from Sylveon there. It's picking up the KO onto the Salamence, and that was huge.
Big knockout right there. Grayson's out right there was for Salamence to be able to survive, wake up, and go for a Hyper Voice to possibly pick up the KO on Akatsuki's Groudon.
But man, Sylveon is strong.
Sylveon is a good Pokemon. You know, you Pixelate, Quick Attack, that's same type attack bonus.
It's amazing. Like, obviously we saw a lot of Sylveon early in the metagame for VGC 15, paired alongside Kangaskhan. It was a real terror with a choice spec set for Hyper Voice. But that quick attack did so much damage. It's probably like a boosting item like the Pixie Plate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of players do opt for the Pixie Plate on Sylveon these days just to be able to get some extra damage off because of the same type attack bonus on the Fairy with the Pixie Plate, with the Pixelate ability, so that does add up, and that was enough to pick up that KO on Salamence.
Big KO there. So now we're going to see a double protect coming out from Grayson. Akatsuki not enjoying that. What's happening here? The attack into the protect there, and here goes the Dark Void from Grayson's side of the field. It's hit one Pokemon. Who's it going to take out? There goes Sylveon. Sylveon's asleep, and will Groudon avoid it? No, it will not.
Yeah, and that is exactly what Grayson needed. He needed to get that double protect to allow Smeargle one turn to be able to put both Pokemon to sleep. Luckily for Grayson, we do see a accuracy rise sharply on Smeargle.
And that is an attack as well.
Yeah, so that's exactly what Grayson needed to be able to set up a position for him to be able to win. Groudon has not taken its first turn of sleep yet, so Grayson's going to be able to get off a free Precipice Blades here. Gravity's still up, so he has no real reason to miss, I believe. I believe Gravity's still up.
It is. So for Smeargle though, once they wake up, he's got that accuracy boost. He can go for another Dark Void if he wants to.
He does. Doesn't necessarily have to go for it right now. I believe the Precipice Blades will be able to do some work here. Might not pick up the KO on that Sylveon. Sylveon itself is a naturally bulky Pokemon, more on the special side than the physical side, but it's still going to be a close call depending on how the Sylveon is trained.
But once again, showing how important Smeargle is in this metagame, really managing to turn the tables on certain players, and dependent on what Pokemon they're using, it's really impressive. And there, speaking of impressive, is a shiny Rayquaza coming out and hitting the field. So Groudon coming, using a Precipice Blade, launching the attack, only going to hit Sylveon. It's going to leave it with 7 HP remaining with a critical hit. Rayquaza avoiding.
Oh, there we go, Dark Void. Dark Void.
And there's a sleep onto the Rayquaza as well. So both Sylveon and Rayquaza taking a nap, but a clever switch from Akatsuki, but Grayson had the plays to make it happen.
Grayson punished that switch right there, and great call from Grayson. You know, that's why I'm commentating and not playing, as we do see Smeargle get an attack rise, as we do see Smeargle go ahead and get a accuracy drop.
So that's going to hurt him if he wants to launch any more Dark Voids, but getting the sleep onto the Rayquaza there on the switch-in was great.
He does need to figure out a way to hit this Rayquaza, though. You know, Rayquaza kind of does wall Groudon and the same type attack bonus attacks. Most Trick Room Groudons, I believe they actually opt for Sword Stance instead of a Rock move. So Grayson needs to be able to figure out a way to knock out this Rayquaza right now.
So we'll have to see what additional moves Grayson is running. I feel like we've only seen Precipice Blades, right?
So far, we've seen Precipice Blades. We've seen, I believe it was the Fire Punch that hit into the spiky shield.
Yes, in the first match, yeah. So maybe he can use a Fire Punch onto this Mega Rayquaza here to get some damage off. But obviously Rayquaza is going to take one turn of sleep right now. So it Mega Evolves, getting rid of the Sun, so lowering the damage that Fire Punch will do to it. But it's still got to get a few bits of damage off. There goes the Quick Attack onto the Smeargle. How much is that doing? That's leaving about 2/3, but Smeargle very, very bulky here, surviving with 2/3 of its HP. Rayquaza taking its first turn of sleep. A big Fire Punch going onto the Sylveon here. So Sylveon's going down. Akatsuki still asleep with its Mega Rayquaza. Smeargle doesn't really need to do anything here, going for another Dark Void.
And we do see a accuracy rise.
And that is a speed drop right there.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to time right now. We're going to have to see... Is Rayquaza going to be able to wake up and hit this Groudon for a lot of damage? It's going to come down to time, pretty much.
That's it. And so if Akatsuki's Rayquaza wakes up and gets an extreme speed off,
or a Draco Meteor,
or Draco Meteor or Dragon Ascent, it will be able to do significant damage to Groudon, and that will win in the match.
Yeah, so it comes down to whether or not this Rayquaza will be able to wake up and go for this attack. You know, time is running down. I believe Grayson sees it as a win condition. Akatsuki also sees it as his win condition. So
It looks like both players. Oh no, Akatsuki's locked in now. So we're going to see, oh no, there goes the sleep on the Mega Rayquaza. Again, remaining sleep, not being able to get any damage off. Same for the Groudon. And we're going to see what Grayson's Groudon is going to go for here. He's going to go for the Presence Blaze, not going to hit the Mega Rayquaza. Going to do crazy damage to that Primal Groudon, which has now been knocked out.
and that should do it. This
Now
turn
it's
is
gonna
just
go to
protecting.
Game 3. We're going to be able to go to Game 3. Akatsuki Sakamoto winning Game 1. Grayson Garen winning Game 2. And this is an incredible match at the Pokemon World Championships.
And
in
we
San
do see
Francisco.
a speed rise again from that Smeargle.
And an evasive drop.
So again, it's going to come down to time. Time's running a bit close here. But again, of course, you can just protect.
That's it. So if both of Grayson's Pokemon protect, he can take this to a Game 3 and use all the information that he has learned in these last 2 matches to try and make this his win.
It's not over yet. You know, Grayson does have to actually wait. You know, just go for that double protect if anything, and then go just stall out the rest of the clock. You know, we've seen instances before on stream where, you know, a player might click a move at the last second, and then that actually registers and the move continues. So, you know, we had to wait till the actual timer goes to 0. Not necessarily, you know, we can't assume anything, right? This is Pokemon.
So will Grayson be able to do this? Will we get a double protect on this turn, and will he take this to a Game 3? Here we go. So Smeargle gonna use a spiky shield. You can imagine the Groudon's gonna go for the protect alongside it.
And we do see the protect right there, and that
There we
should
go,
do it.
and that will be game.
So a great comeback from Grayson right there. That was a really tough match. I mean, just back and forth. You know, Grayson definitely got a bit disheartened when he saw that Sylveon with that quick attack pick up the KO on Salamence. You know, that took away one of his win conditions. Luckily for Grayson, he was able to come back with the Smeargle, putting both Pokemon to sleep. And having Rayquaza, you know, he was helped out a little bit by the amount of sleep turns that he had. You know, a lot of Pokemon actually took their full 3 turns of sleep.
Yep.
So huge comeback right there from Grayson. And back to Game 3. This is it.
Well, I mean, those games both relied heavily on Smeargle. Smeargle really helped Akatsuki in the first match. The wide guards really helped him survive attacks from Salamence and, well, actually, not take any damage from Salamence and then be able to knock it out in quite quick fashion. And then for Grayson, when he managed to get his Smeargle on the field, that's when all the momentum swung in his favor.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the keys that I mentioned earlier going into Game 2 was, you know, hey, Grayson, try to get up Trick Room. You know, Trick Room's going to be pretty important. You know, Grayson did it. He prioritized it, set up Trick Room, controlled the speed, and from there was able to go for, you know, he was just in the driver's seat.
Well, guys, we're going to go through the teams for you once again. We are going into Game 3 of our Round 3 Swiss match here at the World Championships live in San Francisco. Grayson Garen's team on your screen. Groudon, Dialga, Salamence, Clefairy, Bronzong, and Smeargle. And for Akatsuki Sakamoto of Japan, we're going to have Rayquaza, Sylveon, Smeargle, Groudon, Cresselia, and Talonflame.
Yeah, and going into this next game, you know, Akatsuki's going to have to do his best to try to prevent, Grayson from being able to set up Trick Room, right?
Yeah.
Looking at Akatsuki's team, you know, there isn't really much that can prevent that Trick Room from coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the Smeargle option we saw in the first turn, he went for that Dark Void. It did put the Bronzong to sleep, but it crocked that Chesto Berry, and he managed to get the Trick Room up anyway, and that kind of spelled disaster for him. He managed to stall it out, but...
Right. The best option I see right now is maybe his own Cresselia being able to set up Trick Room to try to counter that Trick Room, you know, that kind of double Trick Room scenario.
Yeah.
So that's really his best option. You know, we see that the Eruption doesn't pick up the KO thanks to that heat-proof ability on Grayson's side. You know, that heat-proof is paying dividends for
and
Grayson.
you saw Grayson make the adjustment between matches to not bring Dialga again from the first game, instead opting to kind of go for that Smeargle. And I think that's something he really needs to bring into this third game as well.
Yeah, Dialga's a Pokemon that can set up Trick Room, but at the same time, offensively, it doesn't exert that much pressure, even though its ability is pressure sometimes.
Ooh.
I know.
That's a pun.
Right?
That's a pun and a half, isn't it? Okay, guys, so we're going into Game 3, Round 3 of Swiss here at the World Championships. And we've got the Cresselia coming in. The adjustment has been made by Akatsuki Sakamoto. He's going to have a Primal Groudon and Cresselia on his side of the field. And Grayson's going straight on the offensive with a Smeargle and Salamence combination.
Yeah, and, you know, Akatsuki right there probably bringing that Cresselia to counter Trick Room, but unfortunately, Grayson Garen kind of sees right through that. He's going to be playing a faster mode right now.
And the Smeargle Salamence combination is something that we saw a lot in the US National Championships, right?
Absolutely. You know, Tailwind's such a great move coming from Salamence, and, you know, it looks like right here Salamence does carry Tailwind. That's going to be huge. Smeargle, of course, provides a lot of support right now for the Salamence. Threatens a lot with the possible Dark Void. You know, threatens with the possible Wide Guard. So a lot more defensive pressure coming from Grayson as well in order to kind of set himself up to go on the offense again with that Smeargle.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing, like, if you manage to get one Dark Void off and it sticks both Pokemon, that's a free turn to set up. Your board position can completely change. And speaking of setting up, we're going to have a Salamence Mega Evolving here, getting rid of the Intimidate ability, going to get Aerialate, and we're going to see the Groudon on Akatsuki's side of the field going to protect itself there, doesn't want to take any sort of Hyper Voice damage from the Salamence coming out here. Cresselia, very bulky Pokemon, doesn't really worry too much about that, but here we go, the Dark Void, which picks up the Cresselia. It's going to put it to sleep right here, so Cresselia not being able to act this turn.
We do see an item though.
Ooh, I spoke too soon.
A Lumberry from that Cresselia activating to wake it up as Cresselia goes for an Icy Wind.
There we go, Icy Wind's going to do significant damage to Salamence there, going to leave it with under half HP, dropping its speed as well, which is very, very important.
Yeah, and I was definitely a little worried about maybe a possible Trick Room coming out, as we do see a special stat rise.
And we're going to see the speed drop,
So
which is unfortunate due to it being hit by Icy Wind just a second ago. So Smeargle actually at 2 stages of speed drop now.
One thing that the Smeargle can do, however, is go for a possible White Guard, because, you know, we've seen the, we saw the Icy Wind, we've seen the Eruption. Eruption, I think, is one of the only ways that it can possibly hit that Salamence. Not sure if it has a possible hidden power Ice.
Yep.
Yeah, we never know what kind of crazy techs people bring to the World Championships, as we do see Salamence switch out.
So Salamence is going to lead the field now. Bronzon's coming in. Smeargle is going to use Wide Guard. It has Wide Guard. It's using it, protecting against any sort of Eruption play coming out from Akatsuki's side of the field. So both Pokemon being protected from Eruption there. And Cresselia is going to launch a Psychic onto the Bronzong, which isn't going to do that much damage because it resists.
Great switch right there, as we see Smeargle go ahead and get a, I believe that was a accuracy rise.
And I just missed the drop, I'm afraid.
Thanks for helping me though.
Dude, yeah, I tried. Well, we know what the boost is, so the accuracy rise is significant.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, Smeargle does have to watch out. Like, if Bronzong can somehow maybe set up a Trick Room, then that'd be great. But it's tough. You know, you're going to be taking the Eruption. We do see the Psychic come out from Cresselia, though, an interesting move from Cresselia, not something that we see too often, but that was a beautiful switch by Grayson right there to protect that, as we do see Grayson switch Bronzong again.
It's a revolving door of Pokemon here at the World Championship. Salamence is going to hit the field once again, and the Groudon is going to use the Earth Power onto Smeargle, doesn't want to see it on the field anymore. Smeargle is now going to be knocked out, so a key part of Grayson's winning strategy from before has left the field. And we're going to see the Trick Room coming out from Akatsuki's own Cresselia, so he's actually just set it up for Grayson.
Yeah, and this could be a situation where both Bronzong or Groudon can come in pretty easily. Groudon can exert a lot of pressure onto this Groudon, not necessarily the Cresselia. If you go for the Bronzong switch in, you can go ahead and try to go for some more blind hypnosis, right? As we do see Groudon switch in instead.
Yeah, so it depends on how this Cresselia has been trained, because maybe Cresselia could actually use Skill Swap onto Akatsuki's Groudon to protect it from a possible Precipice Blades from Grayson.
That's a possibility. We've seen Trick Room, Icy Wind, and Psychic so far. It does have a 4th move, could be that Skill Swap, which is going to be so important. It's going to be really close right now, you know. Damage has barely been done on Akatsuki, but you still can't count out Grayson, you know. This Groudon can easily go for a very powerful Precipice Blades, could possibly even get a critical hit. Yeah, that's an option.
Changes the game.
Cresselia could possibly go for an option to reverse that Trick Room, or Icy Wind will be able to pick up the KO on Salamence as well. There's a lot of options going into this turn.
Yeah, and I mean, Akatsuki might be kicking himself a little bit for setting up the Trick Room for Grayson, whose team does seem to prefer that style of mode. And we've got the Icy Wind here coming out from Cresselia. It's going to pick up the knockout onto the Salamence, so Salamence isn't something he has to worry about anymore. And the speed drop onto Groudon, obviously beneficial in Trick Room, but it get a little bit of chip damage. To see how Grayson's going to counter this, he's going to use the Precipice Blades and the Levitate ability activating Cresselia. How much will this do to Groudon? Groudon surviving with 18 HP there, so that is obviously a way that Groudon has been trained. Earth Power coming out now. Is it going to pick up the knockout? It is. There goes Groudon on Grayson's side of the field. Akatsuki celebrating there. Beautiful moment.
Huge right there. That's exactly what Akatsuki needed to seal the deal, as Bronzong is going to be the last Pokemon to come out, and that should do it. You know, Bronzong has no offensive pressure whatsoever.
And that's a 4-0 right there.
Clean victory right there. Not necessarily, you know, Bronzong could go for a Gyro Ball if it really wants to.
But it's
close,
it's
close, but we do see the Groudon switch out
there
instead.
We go. A clever switch from Akatsuki there, just maintaining his clean sheet for this game. But a really commanding performance there.
Yeah, as we do see Sylveon come in, the Gyro Ball does connect onto it. Good amount of damage.
Alright amount of damage, and the Cresselia is going to go for the Psychic here. Not going to do much. We saw it last game. It doesn't do much to that Bronzong, but Bronzong isn't in the best of positions here, is he?
No, I mean, like I said, it has absolutely zero offense pressure, as we do see the forfeit from Grace inside.
And he sort